After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with the speaker is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Just off the shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean, the state of Florida boasts the original speed test for all of NASCAR. The track that needs no introduction, Daytona International Speedway. However, tonight's series might need a bit of an introduction here on PitStop TV as we officially kick off our coverage of the NORC iRacing Series, all beginning with tonight's first annual NORC Classic. Welcome, race fans, to PitStop TV. The ever-amazing Eric Brennan joins me on the virtual mic this evening. Trey Shuttlesworth is over on social media. I am Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is PitStop TV's live coverage of the NORC iRacing Series. Thank you for tuning in across our multiple platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We descend to the land of alligators and February heat for the first annual NORC Classic. It's the beginning of an incredible new deal for NORC and PitStop TV. And Eric, it's always good to open up a season with a run or two at Daytona, stretch everybody's legs, work out the kinks, and just get up to speed, literally and figuratively, to just work ourselves into a new season. We're doing that tonight, the first race of 2021 for NORC, happening here at Daytona. It's going to kick off a wild Season 13.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. And first of all, hello, everybody. Happy to be here this evening for what I expect to be a thriller, which is normally a trend, I would say, with the Daytona International Speedway. But I think you said it all in your intro there, Andrew. You know, this is an opportunity for these drivers to put themselves in another class. And what I mean by that is we have no backbone to go off of for 2021. Now, this is a series that's been in operation for over a decade, so there's a lot of information to comb through as far as, you know, how some of these seasons unfold, what type of car they've used over the last few years. But this is going back to something we hear Dale Earnhardt Jr. talk about it a lot. You know, he used to love the fact there was a preseason opener on a Daytona oval, typically a relatively short race, a fun car to drive, and it's a thrill for us who are able to sit back, relax, and watch it. Well, tonight we got some drivers coming out of a field and an organization and series that is known for breeding a lot of talent. And I think we're going to be privy to 100 laps of pure excitement on the high banks. And one of these drivers is going to start their 2021 NORC season with a little bit of an edge, some momentum, and a whole lot of confidence.
If you're new to NORC, yes, there's a lot of talent that gets bred here. And the series has been around, like you said, for working on a decade thereabouts. I think it's back to the NASCAR 09 days on Xbox 360. NORC has been around for such a long time, a lot of history. If you really want to delve into the stats, we've got a few that we can work you through this evening. But let's begin by talking about Daytona. I mean, again, it needs no introduction, but here it is. 18-degree banking in the tri-oval. It makes it one of the most treacherous pieces of racetrack on the NASCAR schedule, and will do so here as well for the NORC schedule. Now, if you've noticed, the graphics might look a little bit older here because we're not just racing at Daytona, Eric Brennan. We are racing at the old Daytona. That's why we have a backstretch with grandstands back there. This is the 2007-2008 scan of Daytona International Speedway before the repave and before this place was smoothed out. So we'll get to more of that in a moment, but you do see turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. After that 18-degree tri-oval, you head down a 2-degree banking short shoot down to turn 1. 31 degrees banking holds you pretty nicely. What doesn't hold you pretty nicely is all of the bumps here, Eric, that jostle these cars around before you go back down the backstretch. Again, 2 degrees of banking until you fire off into 3 and 4. Turns 2 and 4, trouble spots this afternoon. Along with that tri-oval, we've got a lot of pieces of racetrack to watch.
And that's a great point. The fact that we are running this older model surface. Remember, Daytona International Speedway was repaved back in 2011. Since then, they've done a great job at being able to retain its relative smooth surface. I mean, think about the evolution of how they pave roadways in your local hometown on the highway. They brought a lot of that technology to Daytona when they repaved it, and that's why we haven't seen it age in the way in which it did about 10, 12 years ago. So running this style of track, which has a history of producing some pretty incredible and thrilling finishes. But the caveat here is we're running this style car that you see on your screen as we are privy to the final about 3+ minutes of practice. We're running the late 80s Cup cars at the 87 Monte Carlos and the old Ford Thunderbirds. For those of you who go back to the NASCAR 2003 days, they liken to the old Aero 88 mod that you would see. But on the iRacing sim, first off, hats off to everybody at iRacing for being able to replicate this just this past year, really. but also you can see it already. They are forced to not just sail this thing off into the corner, but throw it off into the corner. And yes, that 31 degrees of banking will catch these cars, but all those bumps you were alluding to, that's going to keep these drivers turning right a heck of a lot more often than they would if they were in today's modern day Cup car.
Absolutely. This place jostles your teeth out. Everybody knows it. If you're familiar with the iRacing sim, this place is treacherous. If you're familiar with NORC as well, I mean, I know we're going to have a plethora, a big mix of viewers joining us for the NORC season coming up the rest of this spring and summer, even close into the fall. It's going to be a long season. You're going to be familiar with some of these drivers. You might not be familiar with others. Currently, Nicholas Caressel actually tops the boards. Aaron Smith, he's got a few NORC wins under his belt. He sits second. We're watching both of them here. In fact, we're watching the top three in practice on our screen. Nicholas Caressel in the 30, Aaron Smith in the 70. Look at that save out of Smith, as well as Howie Briss in the 97. We even have a NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series driver. He's scored tonight as the number 18. You can see there, he's running an interesting number 3, considering it's on the Ford Thunderbird body, but it's Dale Earnhardt's paint scheme. That is Femi Olat. And Femi, oh my, he has put together a wonderful last year or so on iRacing. Again, making it into the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's not the only one, though, that has come out of NORC and worked their way up to high regards. Of course, Bobby Zelensky is another one of those very popular drivers that's come from NORC, gone into the Pro Series, and, well, has made great things for himself. So, excuse me, a lot of drivers to watch, beginning with guys like Femi Olat, currently sitting in 5th in practice. We're wrapping up practice momentarily here, Eric, and obviously, I've been in and around NORC for a couple of years, but we're going to have, obviously, yourself new to NORC. We're going to have a whole lot of viewers here from our PitStop TV fan base new to NORC. What's your overall, I guess, viewpoint so far, just seeing practice unload?
Well, from the few moments I had to watch this practice session, seeing how some of these drivers were able to mix it up in the draft as we see the checkered flag fly on this practice session, but I also went back and watched some of the other plate races they've had over the years, and these guys know how to have a lot of fun. They know how to mix it up, and that's why I think this is the perfect car and the perfect track to kick off our tenure with NORC here at PitStop TV. And the crop of drivers, I mean, you mentioned, Femi Olat, and he actually, mentioned in the chat how these cars are a lot more difficult to stop than what he's accustomed to. And, hopefully he won't have much reason to get on the brakes, but with the race being 100 laps, we could expect a couple of opportunities where he may have to get on the binders at some point, whether it be to get on pit road or perhaps to slow to avoid some trouble. And this is something that these drivers are used to. That's why we see them kind of switch up the type of car that they run in each and every series. I mean, if we're talking about highlighting sim racing talent, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to do so. But tonight, though, it's all about one thing, and that is the checkered flag and the trophy. And this may be one of the few opportunities for these cars to mix things up here a little bit as we see trouble in qualifying for Tommy Gossett as he spun in turns 3 and 4. Qualifying is going to be 2 laps in total, 5 minutes in length, and we'll see who's going to be able to put themselves in a primary starting position. And Andrew, I would think that qualifying is going to mean more with these late 80 Cup cars as opposed to the modern day version because, passing is a little bit more difficult because, as we see, getting around this track by yourself could oftentimes be a tough task.
Oh, absolutely. Now, if you recall, some of our NORC viewers that are tuning in this evening, the most recent season of NORC iRacing Series action was in those 87 cars. I only made 3 starts in that season, but every corner was more treacherous than the last. These 87 cars are beasts. They are so hard to handle. The steering ratio usually in the NASCAR stock cars goes up to about 16 to 1 rather. In these cars, they go up to 20. It's incredible how far you have to turn the wheel, how hard you have to turn these race cars. Aaron Smith at the top of the board here in qualifying so far. We're currently watching David Shutt. He's got some wins under his belt. In fact, he sits, I'd say, around 13th or so on the all-time wins list. Checking in at 4, tied with Daniel Falkingham. We mentioned, of course, Femi Olat and his amazing career in iRacing as of late. He's got an amazing career in NORC as well. Femi Olat has amassed 26 NORC iRacing Series points race victories And Eric, that puts him third all-time behind only Marcus Richardson and Bobby Zielinski. And that puts him also at 14 wins ahead of Freddie De La Rosa. So Femi is up there, the best of the best in the series. I can't wait to see him go out there and lay down a qualifying lap. Meanwhile, only 2 cars have done so far. Aaron Smith and Howie Briss checking in at second place, and he's going 209 off into turn 3.
The other thing I really love, Andrew, so far about what we've seen tonight is the paint schemes on some of these cars. I mean, how about Briss in the old school John Deere looking entry that we remember Chad Little driving in the late 90s in the Cup Series. You already mentioned Femi Olot, his 3 car that replicates Dale Earnhardt Sr., of course. And, you know, then we've also got Schutt driving the old days of Thunder Throwback. So we're going to keep our viewers and listeners on task as far as who's in what particular car, because timing and scoring may not necessarily match up with the number you see on the door and roof. But nevertheless, we only got a minute and a half left to go in qualifying. We've only seen 4 laps being turned so far, as we have another driver here in Gracia trying to improve on his lap time, as he is currently about 0.3 of a second, a little less than 0.3 of a second, off the quick time that was thus far sent by Aaron Smith II, who holds down the quick time for now, as we are coming up to the final minute of this qualifying session. And there's an idea right there, Andrew, riding on board here with Gracia. You see just how bumpy 3 and 4 is for this competitor, and that's by himself without the assistance of the draft. And it's a rough surface these drivers are going to have to navigate, not only in qualifying, but for the 100-lap contest we have coming up in a moment.
And you know what? This is actually relatively common from the NORC field to only have a few qualifiers here on these plate tracks. They just let iRacing handle it sometimes. They let iRacing draw them into their starting spots. We're only going to have 5 qualifiers this evening. We are a bit light on entries, actually. You'll notice that. We only have about, let's see, that's 17, it looks like, on our ticker on the left side. Femi Olot, he's already got the time, and he's going to stop as we come into the tri-oval. Bring it right to a stop there in front of all the fans and let qualifying run its course. So again, letting iRacing kind of handle things there, although he should lock into about 5th spot, nobody else on the racetrack. So before we get into the grid and everything, again, this is going to be a wild season of NORC competition on PitStop TV. I'm so happy as a competitor in NORC the last few years. I am so happy to be able to bring this to PitStop TV. I mean, This is one of the broadcast deals I've looked forward to for a long time. It's been in the works since the fall of 2020, and it still doesn't quite feel real that we're finally bringing things into reality this evening, here on the East Coast. In fact, it's 8:01 p.m. on the East Coast. It's a whole lot earlier in the sim, though, and these guys are gridding up. Let's take you through that starting grid. Eric Brennan off on pole. It's going to be Aaron Smith in that yellow number 70. With none other than Elijah Drew Gracia to his outside. Checking in third, it's going to be Howie Briss in the 97. David Schutt, 4-time winner in the NORC iRacing Series, will roll off 4th. Rolling off 5th tonight, it is Femi Olot, then Daniel Falkingham to his outside. He's got a few wins as of late as well. Will Klein at the line. He's going to roll off from the 7th position. Freddie De La Rosa making an appearance this evening. He'll roll off from 8th. Starting 9th and 10th, it's going to be none other than TCB, Terrell Baker, and Cody Miller.
Just outside of the top 10, as we go back to row number 6, is where you'll find Spencer Owens lining up in the inside in 11th spot. Outside is going to be Zoltan Herzig. Herzig, that is. I promise it's the only time I'll botch that one tonight. Going to roll off at 12th spot. Tommy Gossett in the 80s going to start inside of row number 7, and 13th and 14th spot is going to be that of Sean Williams. 15th, we've got John Berry rolling off from the inside of row number 8 in car 74. Outside is going to be Nicholas Carreso, who's the fastest car in practice at car 30, going to come from near the back of the pack. And rounding out our field tonight in the 17th position is going to be Cole Freilich, who is scheduled to roll off in that 17th spot in car number 15. And that is your starting grid here. 17 cars slated to go for, as we mentioned, 100 laps for the preseason kickoff to the 2021 NORC season.
And that is admittedly a whole lot of laps for 17 cars, but it should allow these guys to settle in and get a lot of laps knocked out early. Seeing some of the paint schemes load in as we finally get onto the grid, you see Aaron Smith with his number moved forward up on the door, looking like a throwback, I want to say, to an old supercar there with the number plate for the number 70. You've also got Elijah Gracia next to him. A lot of great looking paint schemes, as you've touched on so far, Eric. It's going to be a wild one, and you know what? This is just a good way to get the season opened up, to get the year opened up, really. I mean, they've been running FTRL, the Full Throttle Racing League, making its comeback, and its first season on iRacing in at least a while, if not ever. But this is the first NORC race in, I want to say, 5 months or so. It's been quite a while since we've had NORC competition in any form. It is worth mentioning, the most recent champion that we had in the NORC iRacing series was none other than Zoltan Herczeg, taking that championship in Season 12. He rolls off in his championship-winning paint scheme as well when we ran these 1987 Cup cars. It's looking good, that number 96.
That is indeed a beautiful looking ride for Herczeg, and he's going to be coming from the 12th spot here if he wants to try to kick off this 2021 campaign in fashion. And even though we're running the same type of car that they ran last season for Season 12, the 87 Cup car, as you mentioned to me before we came on air, Andrew, the season is going to consist of the Xfinity style body cars. So this is kind of a little bit of a send-off to the car in which he had success in the last time out and won that championship over John Berry. And we're about to see who's going to kick off this preseason opener in fashion as we are getting set to go green for the NORC Classic.
The NORC Classic field up out of turn number 4, getting ready to turn loose for the first time in the new year. It's Aaron Smith out ahead. He's going to bring us down to our starting line. The pace car going to peel off, and we are going to go green flag racing for the first time in 2021. It's the NORC iRacing Series. It's the NORC Classic from Daytona.
And a good jump from the pole as they come down through the tri-oval here. Already a couple drivers elected a slot in the somewhat double-wide formation through 1 and 2. Kicked up to the high side was Elijah Gracia. Going to lose a couple of spots there before they come off of turn number 2. He'll slot back into 4th position as they head down the back straightaway for the first time, looking way down to the inside. A driver we've talked about many a times already, and we're going to be talking about a lot of times tonight. Femi Olot in the black number 3 going to be scored tonight as the 18 inside of turn number 3 and 4. Howie Brisk in the battle for second as they come off turn 4 to complete lap 1.
They're going to come flying by one of our speed shots here at the start-finish line. There they go, and somehow Femi Olot in just a lap is going to be challenging Aaron Smith for the race lead. How about this number 3 scored as the 18. It's only lap 2 now of 100. He's up there battling for the race lead. Howie Brisk until on the outside line, though. It's not quite like you might expect from our current NASCAR stock cars where you want to get that line formed up. Sometimes you want that gap behind you because otherwise somebody might get a little bit too close, get you unsettled, maybe even get into the back end of your car. So it's really tough to work these lines here in these 1987 cars, especially coming to the old version of Daytona.
You can see just how yawed out the back end of these cars are getting. Through the corners is Olot, bouncing around the back end of that race car there. Now struggling a little bit on the bottom. He's going to lose a spot there to our reigning champion in Herczeg, who started back in the outside the top 10. He's all the way up now to 3rd is that of Herczeg, and he's trying to follow Schutt, who's cutting a trail to the front. And here comes Herczeg. You're on board with him as Smith bottoms out there in 1 and 2. He'll go down to the bottom, does Smith, to protect the inside from Schutt, while Herczeg nearly grazes the wall off of 2.
You can see how hard they're fighting their cars. Herczeg going to make the move down to the bottom side. Zoltan gets right down to that yellow line. Going to pass the yellow number 70. Take the race lead here on lap number 3. Our reigning champion out front of this NORC Classic field. Schutt with a great save out of turn 4. Howie Brisk going to fall into 4th. And don't look too far. There's the 42 car of Elijah Drew Gracia. This throwback HEB paint scheme is Cole Fralick goes purple on that lap. The 42 is looking good in behind these guys, but he's got to worry about now Femi Olot out the back end of that 42. You can hear these guys bottoming out on the pavement. Gosh, this is just a combination made in heaven. This is great stuff. Watching these 87s take to Daytona 07. David Schutt starting to bring the fight now to Aaron Smith off into turn 3. He's going to try and take that second spot away, and he does.
Oh, and Schutt really sailed it off into that 3rd corner there, kind of squirted out further forward on the bottom side of the racetrack, while Herczeg drifts up off the bottom of the racetrack. That may allow Schutt an opportunity to close up here and battle for the race lead, with Smith pushing him forward. And we talked about Herczeg, 12th to the lead in 4 laps. An unbelievable charge by your 2020 NORC champion. Now he's got the tough job of trying to defend that spot. And right now, as Schutt washes up the racetrack, it's going to give Herczeg a couple of car lengths of breathing room, while Smith takes second spot back off of 2.
A jambalaya up out of turn number 2. Cole Freilich joins the party. He's also in a Days of Thunder looking paint scheme, trying to mimic Cole Trickle. And you know what? I think just because the first name matches, I think Cole's got it over David Schutt. But Cole Trickle on the inside of Cole Trickle out of turn number 4. And Cole Freilich is going to end up on the top side of that battle. But on the bottom side of the racetrack now, even of Elijah Drew Gracia looking for 5th place as we eclipse lap number 5. Coming to lap number 6, you see the top 6 splitting away. 7th is where you find Femi Olat. They're working with Will Klein. And really, it's very spaced out behind that. You see Tommy Gossett in the number 80. A throwback, I believe, to Dick Trickle in the Halig Myers number 90. Then we have a few guys for the back, and nobody's lost the draft except for Terrell Baker, who has had some kind of problem here in the early goings. TCB, unfortunately, 3 laps down.
Yeah, now running on the apron of the racetrack there at 1 and 2 at a very high rate of speed is that of Baker, and that's not going to be the way in which he started off his NORC season. However, a long way to go in this race still. We've only got 6 laps in the books, and surprised to see Olat after running up towards the front of the pack when we kicked this thing off. He started up in second position, kind of faded back into that second grouping, not too far off the leaders though as we go on board there through turns 1 and 2, and it looks as though potentially just biding his time and waiting for the opportunity to close up on the back straightaway, being that everybody's been jockeying for position at the head of the pack with Herczeg the leader, Freilich up into that second spot. After that second identical looking Days of Thunder livery has now rocketed his way to the runner-up position after trailing this field a lap ago.
Oh, he got the apron out of 4, and Howie Brice just misses the left rear of the 15. That was close, Eric. I thought we were going to have a massive crash out of 4.
And catching the apron still in the tri-oval is that of that number 15 car, Freilich, and he's going to have to send a thank you card to that 97 that we're on board with, the John Deere machine of Brice, because he could have pressed the issue and sent him fully around. Instead, he pedaled the throttle and allowed him a chance to save it, and he's going to be able to salvage the 3rd spot for the time being. Now looking to get back up to 2nd at the end of the back straightaway.
And if you tuned in for NASCAR's, well, Fox Sports coverage of the NASCAR duels, the Cup Series duels at Daytona the other night, you'll have seen part of the, or at least most of the Days of Thunder documentary they had, going behind the scenes, the makings of Days of Thunder. Not gonna lie, when we took that shot from the back end of Zoltan's car, it felt like we were on one of the camera cars filming a scene from Days of Thunder, just seeing that green and yellow City Chevrolet dip down to the bottom side and look for that pass, and now he's dipping down to the bottom side of Zoltan. A couple of Chevrolet Monte Carlos going at it, 3 of them actually up at the front. I suppose that's 3 Monte Carlos going at it for Dale. They're gonna go 3 abreast, 3 wide down the backstretch. David Schutt through the middle.
No hesitation at all by Schutt, who goes to the middle and makes it work. He cements the lead as they come to 3 that time and skates up in front of Herczeg to hold that spot, but for how long? Herczeg trying to get it back off the corner, and we got a gaggle of cars racing for the lead like it's the last lap. That's what makes this series so much fun, and as they come to the stripe, it's Herczeg back to the lead.
Racing very aggressively here, not even 10 laps in. It's already felt like a marathon for these guys, but we've still got over 90 to go. In fact, 91 the last time by the stripe. This is exactly what we expect, though, especially out of David Schutt, for example. That is what I think of. When I think of David Schutt, I think of being aggressive. I think of going after the race lead, going after every position that he can get early. In fact, we were able to cover a couple of NORC IndyCar races back in the early portion of 2020, and that was exactly our big takeaway. Cole Freilich even joined us on the mic for that one. David Schutt, very aggressive in those Indy cars at Texas Motor Speedway that evening. He's very aggressive in these NASCAR 87 cars this evening at Daytona. Oh boy, he's aggressive.
Aggressive, absolutely, and that is going to be what it takes for this car at this track. And look at how the pack is starting to tighten up. What was once about a 5-car breakaway, hang on, way down to the bottom of the racetrack goes Elijah Gracia. He's going to be able to save that car. Up alongside comes that Dick Trickle painted number 80 to the outside, trying to take that position away. We are double wide, Andrew, for about the first 3 rows here. Swerving out in front comes Briss, and those 2 City Chevrolets skate their way off the corner in the battle for second. It's going to be Schutt taking it back, but we've got this battle up at the head of the pack, starting to rope in a couple of more competitors here. Looks as though the entire top 8 is in this gaggle of cars, while Herzeg is trying to get back to the front. He's going to look 3 wide.
Oh, Zoltan, he saves it! I don't know how he hangs on to that Chevrolet, but he does. Keeps racing, and there's a whole lot of green and yellow up in the front. In fact, the blue and yellow, actually, number 70, going to go down to the inside of Cole Frey, like side by side down to turn 3. But Howie Briss, David Schutt, they've pulled off and away. They were almost tandeming out there. Now David Schutt backs off a little bit, lets Howie get a bit of a lead, and oh, David Schutt sideways up out of the corner. Here comes Zoltan, right back down to the bottom side, and he's going to take that spot away at the start-finish line. These guys, they don't know they're going 100 laps, it seems. They're treating it like it is the Busch Clash, and you only have a number of laps to get it done. Zoltan right back to the point, just drives down to the bottom side and makes it look easy on Howie Briss.
Very surprised with how, Herzeg appears to be able to work his way back to the front with relative ease. As we mentioned with this car, it doesn't necessarily require all the drafting help in the world to get the job done, but you still have to have the ability to hang on to that thing if you're going to sail it off in there, especially on the bottom. And that's what Rose is starting to do just behind. Where'd he come from? We haven't talked about that driver up in the top 3 all night. He's now trying to take second spot away, and continuing to try to close up comes Freddie De La Rosa. He's in the runner-up position as they approach turn 1.
Freddie D down to the bottom side. He's going to take second place away, and you can see how sideways they are. He might go up the racetrack. There he is. He's up in the wall. He's spinning, and he's going to wreck. Oh, he's going to take Smith. Smith going to the moon faster than Dogecoin. And oh my, we've got our first caution of 2021. And he's a turtle. He's no longer a Shiba Inu. He is a turtle out of turn 2.
Absolutely. And the car comes to rest on its roof with the left rear tire still rotating on that machine. And that is Aaron Smith, who started on pole. Wrong place, wrong time. And Andrew, just as we were talking about the charge up through the pack for Freddie De La Rosa, it suddenly comes to a close as he could not hang on to the car after moving up into that second spot. Thought he had it saved right about here, and then he overcorrected and shot back up in front of Smith, who then launched up over the nose of the 42 on the exit at turn number 2. And it was Elijah Gracia who ended up being the launch ramp for Smith's car, and it puts us under the caution for the first time tonight.
But you know what? A great job by Tommy Gossett to miss that. He easily could have been in the midst of this massive calamity up out of turn 2. I mentioned earlier, the exit of the corners, super treacherous here at Daytona regardless, but especially with these older Cup cars and at the older Scana Daytona, very tough to work with. And actually, it was really the center of the corner. You can see how loose the 72 got, and here's the wild ride for Smith. Oh my. That is incredible. We know these cars can now do blowovers. I didn't think we would have a flip with one of these cars without a blowover. That's impressive.
Yeah, just absolutely rode over the front of Gracia's car to send him skyward. Did that of Smith, and boy, just like that, we have our first yellow flag just as we started to see that front and lead pack grow more and more. And this is going to be an interesting perspective. Here's Elijah Gracia, who, has been relatively in the top 5 all throughout the night thus far, keeping distance between himself and the cars in front of him. He's going to watch the 72 spin down to the bottom. Thought he may have had it cleared, and hello, not only up into the windshield, but skyward goes Smith, and tumbling down. And what a great job by the rest of the field behind. Look how many cars had to take advantage of that runoff area. Remember, with this being the 2007 version of this track, that whole back straightaway is not paved. They did not have as much room to utilize the pavement there. They took advantage of all that they had, though, as some of the leaders are on pit lane.
Taking tires early is most of the field. Tires a premium in these 1987 stock cars. Zoltan Herzeg, he's going to take, it looks like, at least 2 Some quick pit stops up at the front. In fact, the top 4 are all going to take, it looks like, 2 tires. The first on 4 is going to be Howie Briss in the John Deere, number 97, mimicking that of Chad Little. Spencer Owens also going to take 4. First time we mentioned him this evening in the number 12. Sean Williams, he's going to take 4. Everybody else further back either taking 4 or repairing damage. And in fact, we've got, it looks like, 6 in the pit lane doing exactly that. Elijah Gracia, Femi Olot, Cody Miller, TCB, I think, is just trying to get back on the lead lap, actually. Aaron Smith is down there, Freddie De La Rosa as well. Great misses by some of those guys. I mentioned Tommy Gossett. We took the gearbox angle of him leaving that accident. Some great misses further back in the field, even though it was big calamity up front.
Yeah, and I wonder, too, being that this caliber of field is, very impressive as far as talent and ability. I wonder if, even though this is not your modern-day style Cup car, how many of them may just be kind of biding their time in the back, like a Klein or a couple of others who cracked the top 10 for the most part here tonight, at least not at this point in the race. Granted, it's still early. Maybe trying to wait for a couple of these incidents to take place, see how it impacts some of the front runners, and then start to work their way forward and give themselves a shot to win. But I got to tell you, Andrew, as of right now, and again, still early, we're not even, a quarter of the way through this race yet, I'm very impressed by Herczeg, because his ability to not only fall back, kind of stop the bleeding around 4th or 5th spot every time, and then within a lap or 2, he's at the front. I mean, again, the number that we're going to watch here, start at 12th, up to 1st in 4 laps. In these cars, at this track, that's incredible.
It really is. That said, I think a few of those spots, I don't want to discredit anything here by Zoltan, but I think a few of those spots were just guys trying to ease back, take it easy here at the start. It is a 100-lap race after all, and I don't believe these guys have a faster pair to lean back on, so with only 17 in the field, you can absolutely sit around 15th or so, just keep your car in one piece, maybe 2 if you're feeling a bit lucky, and get yourself to the end of this race. It's a lot like the 12 Hours of Bathurst coming up for these iRacers. You've just got to keep your car together. If you do so, if you just survive, you've got a great chance of being there at the end. You see the number 96 up on the high banks. He's up on the top line, and pace car lights are out. The reason he's up there solo on the top side of the racetrack, Eric Brennan, is we have single-file restarts all night long. As an NASCAR purist, as somebody who loves old-school, NASCAR mechanics in general, NASCAR rules, etc., I am a massive fan of these single-file restarts. It might take a lap or so to get quite exciting, but it just, I don't know, it looks cool when you have a field coming down to the green flag single file. They do exactly that. It's lap 17, now lap 18 of 100, with firearm back up, and they get off and going.
It's going to be Herczeg, Schutt, and Berry, the runner-up for the championship last year, now up into the top 3 for the first time tonight, according to my box score, with Briss 4th, Williams your top 5. A couple of new names that are up there towards the front of the pack by virtue of the crash that took out Smith and De La Rosa. Also, Grazia showing a couple of laps down after all 3 were involved in the heavy contact off 2. But as you can see, it doesn't take long for the slipstream to work, and here comes Schutt for the lead to the inside before they hit turn 3. Down low is Schutt. Up high, way up high is Herczeg, and they're going to battle for the lead off 4. And how about the momentum rim riding at the top for Herczeg? But that's going to allow the rest of the pack to close up, and here comes Briss from 3rd quickly.
Schutt's going to try and get him at the line. Not quite. It's so close, too close to call. It may have been David Schutt at the line to lead lap 18, side by side still. You see the 74 in frame of John Berry. First time we've really talked about him this evening. And you mentioned he was the runner-up in Season 12. He's been in the top 3, Eric Brennan, 9 out of 12 seasons. Dating back to the console days of NORC, he's always there. He runs races for points. He makes sure he's in a position for the championship when it comes down to it. That's what's important about John Berry. He's always a good sleeper pick to be in the conversation. I mean, we have 5 championships for Bobby Zelensky, sure. But being in the top 3 9 times out of 12, doesn't matter who you are, that's impressive.
Yes, certainly. That's why we keep our eye on him, or at least one eye on him.
Whoa!
Trouble! Herczeg, he gets into the wall and spins in front of the pack, and also involved the 25 who had problems early, and Tyrell Baker, and it's going to sweep up just as we were talking about John Berry in a multi-car crash that happened in a 3-wide battle for the lead in 1.
That's most of the front runners. That is going to really debilitate, I think, the field in general. It looks like it starts up with Howie Briss, David Schutt, and Zoltan Herczeg in 1 and 2. We'll watch them come through the tri-oval, kind of clipping through the building there. We'll watch them come through the tri-oval here. And you can see the 3 wide starting to take form. Howie Briss down to the bottom side. Oh, I see exactly what happened. Just ran out of room. David Schutt trying to give room to Howie Briss down to the bottom side. Ends up door banging Zoltan, and it's on from there. We'll have to watch that from Zoltan's perspective.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to mention how Tyrell Baker, despite being a couple laps down after the start of this race, trying to get his way back up there, prove he can mix it up with the leaders, and maybe end up back on the lead lap at some point in this race. And he was up there about 5th car in line, and he got swept up in this thing as well. But what a race we had going on at the front of the pack, though. And I kind of penciled Herczeg as the early favorite in this race, and he's been able to hang tough there up against the outside wall, and he was doing just that. And that door bang there in the corner is what knocked the 49 car sideways. And how about Briss able to escape the carnage? Also looks like, I believe, that may have been trying to get a positive idea on the other car that squeaked by there. Sean Williams in the 89 was the car that was able to squeak by. Wow, as you mentioned, Andrew, we caught out a number of drivers who are making up our top 5 positions here throughout the night in what is still a very early incident amongst some of these front runners. Let's go on board with Sean Williams and see how he got through this.
You say Sean Williams made it through? Well, let's find out how. He's down on the bottom side behind Briss, and actually it looks like Zoltan actually comes down, trying to turn into the corner. Maybe just either miscalculated or didn't quite know there were 3 wide. Sean gets a piece of it, but he barely misses Zoltan, and that's going to keep his car together. So he gets a little bit of damage, but gets away mostly unscathed. Should keep that car relatively in one piece, at least in racing condition. But this is really going to fall into the hands of guys like Howie Briss, who suddenly get a great position out of this caution. This 97 might just be in position to walk away with something here. But, I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised, actually, if we kind of a split field after this. Some of the damaged cars falling back, some of those guys who have made it through these incidents so far, staying up front. What do you say? We try and talk with Howie Briss right quick and see how he's feeling about this thing on lap 22 of 100. We'll bring him to you, Eric.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Howie Briss, the leader right now, as we're approaching the 25% distance mark on this race. And Howie, great racing up at the front of the pack, but man, it's been intense. We've had a couple of hard incidents already. What's your vantage point from the cockpit? Has this race been everything you thought it would be, or is it a little bit too intense for your liking and you're happy up there in P1 right now?
Right now, as I could say, I'm kind of happy, but yeah, I don't know. I was sent to 3 wide. I didn't mean to, actually, because I was on fresh tires. David and Zoltan were on old tires, and I don't know what happened there, but I'm kind of happy to be out in front right now. I feel like I got an advantage over everybody.
Now, we still got a long way to go, still more than 3/4 of this race left. Do you think it's going to be a night about surviving, or do you think things are going to calm down from this point forward, or at least is that what you're hoping from the P1 spot?
I'm expecting either it to go 2 ways. I'm thinking that we'll probably calm down, get some laps in, and then possibly towards the end, we'll get some chaos going in, because as soon as the tires start to wear out, you're slipping and sliding, and this thing is like a land boat. And you know what a land boat does. It just weaves around like you're on the high seas. This is what this car is all about, just trying to manage your tires at Daytona.
Now, we see that you're on 1 to go. One last question, though. Before, take all that stuff out of the equation. The fact it's been a little bit crazy. From our vantage point, it looks like you guys are having a lot of fun. Granted, there's no points on the line. It's all about the win. How much fun are you having out there in this car at this version of Daytona tonight?
I'm kind of having a ball right now, just having some fun. I got Cole Freilich behind me and this similar paint scheme, and my grandmother's upstairs watching, so hopefully she doesn't get me and Cole mixed up, but hopefully we'll make this entertaining for the fans at home.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Hopefully we talk to you in a little while longer, Howie. Good luck for the rest of the race, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And again, that was Howie Briss, who's going to lead us back down for this restart. We may have an opportunity to talk to again a little bit later on tonight if he could stay up there in P1. But Andrew, still got a long way to go. We're going to be coming up here to kick off lap number 24. And a lot of cars were on the pit lane there trying to get service. A lot of cars are damaged and made sure that they try to get their cars repaired in time. Let's see how the rest of this race pans out as we get ready to go back to racing.
A very long way to go, Eric. Still 3/4 of this race up ahead, thereabouts. And you see the 97, the 15, they're the two cleanest cars in the racetrack at this point. I think Tommy Gossett could be lumped into that group, though. He's got a pretty clean-looking number 80. It looks like the 28, Cody Miller, has a little bit of damage, but he's still up there. Decently clean, mostly straight. We'll see how he falls into all of this as we go back green flag racing, coming to lap 24 of 100. Howie Briss off and away, already side by side for second.
Didn't take long for Miller to decide he wanted to try to head a little bit further forward as Miller is on the bottom of the racetrack in that black and white car, sliding his way up here to take over that second spot. He's got some help from behind from Gossett. I love that paint scheme on Gossett's car. Even though we're not at a short track, you always remember how Dick Trickle used to be able to wheel that machine, and it's going to take a similar talent, and he had to slam on the brake pedal there to avoid another accident on the back straightaway as we're side by side for the lead in 3.
And we thank Tommy Gossett for his awareness there. He's working with some hand controls this evening, and he's doing a great job of it. And oh my, how about Cody Miller to the top spot? He's won here at Daytona before, and he's going to the front, bringing Cole Fralick with him, trying to usurp that number 97 for the race lead. It's going to work for now. And suddenly, the black and white number 28 looks pretty strong out in front of the field. I mentioned he's got a little bit of nose damage, but still looking pretty strong. And don't look too far. He's still a couple of laps down, but Terrell Baker, TCB, up here mixing it up with the race leaders despite being one lap behind.
On board with him now on the back straightaway, trying to get that lap back the old-fashioned way. But we got a new player into the mix. Here's a name we haven't called much tonight. How about Spencer Owens in the 12, who is trying to get up to the race lead here off turn number 4. Briss holding steady on the high lane, which appears to be working well for drivers at the head of the pack. And Owens is not going to be able to draw up alongside. There's going to be drafting help coming in the form of Shutt, who's got Baker under the back bumper of that car as they enter turn number 1. Baker now...
Whoa, TCB! Terrell didn't quite go with him. Now Zoltan swerves down to the bottom side of TCB, goes on by. Remember, TCB is a lap down here, but Shutt, I think, thought that TCB would go with him and didn't. Now 3 wide down the backstretch. The same 3 players as Zoltan goes top to bottom, and he's going to work that yellow line on the inside, side by side, and he just makes it look so easy every time.
We thought that crash might have taken Herzig out of contention. Think again, didn't take him too long to get back up here to battle for the front. And here comes that lap car, Baker, to try to give him a shove down to turn number 1 for that top spot. Baker, though, is going to duck back in line behind Briss and Shutt on the approach to the first corner. That may shuffle Herzig back a little bit as you see Baker get real sideways there. Third car in line to the outside. He's got to have it hanging out again.
Great save there from Terrell. Keeps it underneath him. Side by side now, a couple of Chevrolet Monte Carlos headed down the Daytona super stretch in behind the 97 of Howie Briss. You see most of the field streaming out, but Cody Miller down to the bottom side of TCB trying to take, well, not that spot away, but just get on by him anyway. He wants to not have to battle that lad car. Those guys working the apron. Shutt was anyways. Miller there with him. Thankfully, Cody kept it off of the apron too badly, and they keep racing.
Well, these guys definitely getting a workout tonight with how they're sliding these cars off the corner out of the 31 degrees of banking and what is, again, the 2007 edition of the Daytona International Speedway. And you could tell by how rough the surface is, especially on the bottom treble.
TCB around. Is he going to keep it? Oh, thankfully he doesn't blow over. I guess you can look at that 2 different ways. Sometimes we like to see those blowovers. He keeps the car rolling, no caution. We'll keep racing. He was a lapped car, and if we get a caution, he should still get back onto the lead lap as long as it comes out relatively soon. The interesting thing I want to mention here, Eric, is these guys have to lift a lot if they want to keep in this field. It's something you don't usually have to deal with nearly as much in the current NASCAR stock cars. You certainly don't have to counter-steer so often. These guys are driving the cars very, very sideways with very little to lean on. In fact, you can see how curved the sides of the cars are. They're not flat. They don't give you the same side force current Cup cars do. It is a handful, and you're having to work every part of your brain just to keep things straight.
And it's going to be the theme of the night, as we are not even halfway yet in this race for the NORC Classic. And even after a couple of multi-car incidents, you could see as the top four are double wide, 2 rows deep, these guys have elected not to try to pull it back and log laps. They're going to keep fighting hard, as we see Gossick getting a little bit sideways there after taking over the 3rd spot from Owens. And we're side by side for the lead again with one of the cars that was involved in the most recent caution. Herczeg, the reigning champion, now trying to get the lead away from Briss, but he's not quite clear off too. He's going to have to surrender the outside lane to Briss, who has a huge run up top, trying to hold on to the top spot.
We've got the NORC Daytona 500 duels coming up in a week's time, but I think these are the duels we all want to see, going at it side by side, lap after lap, and here comes Tommy Gossett. Oh no! Oh, is he going to hang on to it? No. Zoltan around with him. As soon as Tommy Gossett got to the race lead, old tires prevailed on him and sent him around. Cole Freilich and Femi Olot get involved. Oh my.
And that was for the lead coming off of turn number 4, where Gossick got sideways. And what a job and heads-up move by both of these cars, both Gossick and Herczeg. You're going to see it here on your screen as we cue up the replay. They elected to lock it down as soon as these cars got sideways. And Andrew, you alluded to that earlier when we saw Baker spin. 2 reasons for that. One of which, of course, they didn't want to come back up in front of the pack. But also, if these cars spin around too quickly at high rate of speed, or this high rate of a speed, they're going to go skyward. And you see them lock it up as quickly as they can to scrub off speed. On the outside of the track, though, we saw Cody Miller, who was on the binders. He did get some contact from behind. Femi Olot was trying to get through. And also, the 15 car of Cole Freilich may have gotten a nudge from behind by Olot, in a 3rd yellow flag, 3rd multi-car accident in this NORC Classic, and again, the 3rd time it's happened at the head of the field.
Yeah, these guys going for the race lead are why we're getting these caution flags, but dang, is it exciting. You see Gossett, Tommy just put a little bit of wheel into the car up out of 4, and it just got away from him. And then you see Cody Miller trying to hang on to it, ends up the racetrack right in front of Cole. Nowhere for Cole or Femi to go, and unfortunately, they just end up in a chain reaction into one another. You just accordion so quickly here when you're all trying to check up like that. It's really easy for that kind of thing to happen, and unfortunately, it's going to bite the 15 and 3 cars under this most recent stoppage of action. Lap 32 of 100, we have cars back on the pit lane. Howie Briss, though, staying out. He's been out there for 16 laps. Some of those caution laps, however, he stayed out under the last yellow, too. I'm surprised by this move from Howie.
Yeah, surprised he's elected to stay out that long because, want to remind everybody who may be watching, this race is 100 laps essentially straight up. We're not going to have any planned stage breaks or cautions. I mean, granted, we've seen, 3 yellows early in this race, but you're not guaranteed the opportunity to come down and pit for service in the distant future if these guys are able to start to run a little bit cleaner or figure things out a little bit more. And there's no guarantee that window of opportunity will open for Briss in that lead spot. So surprised as well that he elected to stay out at least one more time under this caution flag.
Very surprising that Howie's going to stay out. While we wait to see how this works out for the number 97, I want to mention all of our partners here at PitStop TV. Of course, Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. Make sure to use promo code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off your order. It's a great device. I've got one on my bedroom wall, and I can vouch for it all day long. It's basically a box with a nice canvas and a great picture of your choosing on the front of it. It looks great. It sounds great, too. It's a quality product. I highly recommend it, and not just because they're one of our partners, but because I can attest to the quality of that product. Of course, Race Pace as well. Tyler Campbell over there putting in a ton of hard work, getting a whole lot of teams ready for the iRacing Rolex 24 a couple weeks back, and now transitioning into Bathurst prep, and also trying to keep our Pacific GT3 teams up on the tracks that they have to come up to each week. We've got the Nordschleife coming up this Monday, in fact. Race Pace will get you taken care of. If you're looking for any kind of road setup, check Tyler and the rest of the Race Pace crew out. They are expanding everything about Race Pace. A lot of exciting things coming from that stable, and we'll talk more about permanent makeup in Cryo and Maine and Whiplash Media in a little while, but Eric, I'm really excited to see how the rest of this evening goes. And this, again, is just a precursor to a lot of 2021 action we've got ahead. You mentioned earlier on, we have NASCAR Xfinity Series cars to look forward to. It's the first time that we'll be racing those in NORC since Season 7. That was some number of years ago. I mean, I'm trying to think back. That must have been around the beginning of 2018, I think it was. It's been a long while since we've had Xfinity car action. It might have even been back in 2017. It's been a long time since NORC has run those Xfinity cars.
Yeah, thanks to our crack statistician team at PitStop TV, able to go back in time and take a look at how that season panned out. And it was Freddie De La Rosa who, believe it or not, looks as though maybe the driver who's going to round out our 17-car field here tonight. So I bet he's definitely amped to get back in an Xfinity car in NORC competition, because he was the driver who was able to reap the reward. Ironically, he was the champion of that series ahead of Femi Olot back in Season 7. So Freddie will definitely be looking forward to that. But fortunately for us, we got a long ways to go in this 87 Cup car before we close out this NORC Classic as we get set for the restart.
Lots of racing ahead. Last time it was about a quarter of the way into things, 3/4 to go. Now we're about a third into this race with 2/3 to go. Coming to lap 34, these motors roar back to life, and we are racing once more from the Daytona International Speedway, the 2007 version thereof. And man, Sean Williams is going to bring the fight right to Howie Briss. How about the number 89 suddenly thrust into this battle?
Sean Williams so far, his highlight of the night, being able to work his way to the front of the pack, avoid the major crash that happened at this sector right as we're passing off turn number 2. That was our second caution of the night. Now he has a chance to go up against Briss, mano a mano for the top spot, as the car behind him and Miller is not close enough to mount a charge for the runner-up position. It looks as though that for now, Williams is going to follow Briss in the tire tracks as they bounce their way off of turn number 4 and back to the line to complete one lap after the restart. But look off in the distance. Here comes Herczeg trying to work his way back up towards the front of the pack yet again. He's now up to third.
Zoltan already in that battle with Cody Miller for third position. You see the top two up ahead. They've kind of separated themselves for now. But the Swifty Carlo not going to get too far away with that Ford Thunderbird of Howie Briss just yet, because here comes Zoltan. Reigning champion in NORC. We've talked about it a lot so far. He's coming off of a championship in that car. I mean, he is the one to beat right now in these 87 cars. It seems like he has definitely done his homework for a race that I don't think we knew was going to happen for 4 months of the 5-month off season. He is certainly prepared for this one. He is up to the outside of Howie Briss, already fighting for that lead again. I mean, this is insane. He just gets runs from nowhere. They suddenly materialize, and he goes right on by.
I think the most fascinating thing we are seeing out of Zoltan Herczeg tonight is his ability to swing that car out up to the wall and kind of use it as a bit of a buffer to kind of keep that car in line. And how about Baker? Here comes Tyrell Baker yet again. He too is proving that he can cut a trail to the front of the pack relatively easily, except this time he's on the lead lap, up to second and looking for the lead as he slips up off turn 4. He's gotten around Briss and now is going to chase down Herczeg for the top spot.
TCB is a hell of a plate racer himself, and he is working on Zoltan right now. He's going to look high. He's going to go with it. Does he have help? He's got David Shutt back there, but not too close right now. The 25 car up to the outside. It's turn number 1, sideways, drifting, and oh, we've got another big one. Howie Briss! Oh, no. John Barry gets a piece. Cole Freilich around. Will Klein involved.
Another multi-car crash in the front of the pack, and it was after watching Tyrell Baker work his way up to the race lead momentarily, and he might have sent it off in a 1 and 2 a little bit too hard as the back end stepped out on him, and he took out a driver who, unofficially, according to my count, may have led the most laps tonight in Howie Briss in the John Deere machine, and head on into the wall goes Briss. Sean Williams escapes another one. He slid there, did make contact with the left front of Baker's car, but after bouncing off, Williams was able to continue driving forward, and you saw Femi Olot in the grass as well.
We'll take a look back at this one more time. This time we'll keep up with, let's pick the 74 of John Barry, because he's going to have a great view of all this happening up ahead. Terrell just gets loose up on the top side trying to raise Zoltan and David Shutt and Howie Briss. He comes back up and just body slams the 97. Somehow You saw the blue 89 on the bottom side. He's going to get through this thing relatively unscathed. I'm not sure how he did it, but Sean Williams is going to escape major injury in this one. That is incredible. Let's take a look at it from his point of view here.
Going to go on board with John Berry now, who, again, runner-up in the championship last season, has already navigated his way through one of these crashes, and he sees the wreck up in front, now trying to figure out which way the cars are going to go. It looks like they're coming off the wall, and then here comes TCB back up in his path, and he does a nice job there avoiding the other spinning car of one of the drivers who ran very well earlier in the race, was battling for the lead when he was involved in his first incident in Cole Freilich, as it looks as though now most of the field, in fact all the field, is going to take advantage of the open pit lane and come down for service, or in some drivers' cases, for repairs.
Everybody coming in this time, and it makes sense as well, as Zoltan's going to peel off ahead of most of the rest of the field. You see Sean Williams come in. We were intending to get Sean Williams for that replay. We ended up getting John Berry, and Tommy Gossett just misses his pit stall. He'll have to back in and correct himself there if he wants to get service. Everybody else in, and we're trying to get a good camera angle. We'll get one here, it looks like. Here's Daniel Falkenham in for service, David Schutt. You see Femi Ola up on the jacks, and even got Howie Briss down there with all the damage. It's going to be tough to see the 97 back up into this one. But everybody else going to get out and away. It looks like out of the pit lane. Zoltan going to retain his race lead. And it's going to be Cody Miller, second place, Tommy Gossett in third, then David Schutt coming off of the pit lane. Finally, a lot of these guys staying in for repairs. I think this is kind of the theme we can expect for the rest of the evening under caution periods, that these guys are all going to have to stay in for some repairs.
And the good news is, Andrew, you know, being involved in a wreck of that caliber has not been a death sentence tonight in this NORC Classic. And although there are some drivers like De La Rosa and like Smith who went for a wild ride, perhaps the craziest ride we've seen here tonight, who are many laps down and out of this thing, you know, if you include Elijah Gracia, who was involved in an incident, Briss, who's now 2 laps down, getting his car repaired, but possibly going to try to stick with it. We already talked about TCB and his charge up through the pack. He's already made up a couple of laps and got to the front of the pack. He's got the job done before. This time, though, having to wait on some service and repairs, he may not be out of this thing yet. And a name that we haven't called yet, and I honestly want to give you credit, Andrew, because you pointed out the fact that, you know, Will Klein is somebody who has been very hot on the plate tracks, specifically in this 87 Cup car over the last year or so. And even though it looks as though he may have sustained some damage in there, I think he was trying to be patient throughout the evening and maybe try to charge a little bit later as attrition did its thing throughout this race. But I still would not rule out any of these drivers, especially with the trend we've seen as far as how hot and heavy the battle for the lead has been.
Well, it looks like Will may have departed for the evening. At the very least, he's not selectable for me here on timing and scoring, so it looks like problems for the 48 car. He was involved in that incident that may have written him out of this one, and we're only on lap 40 of 100. We've seen a lot of incidents so far, and that is certainly taking its toll visibly on the field, but we do still have, it looks like 11, 12 cars with us, and if Howie gets back out there, we should have 18. But to your point, we call him Will Klein at the line for a reason. He's just got some way, when it comes down to it, if he can get to the end of one of these plate races, that's what's important, is getting to the end. He finds some way, even if he's, say, 18th, damaged race car, the seas are going to part for him. It just, we don't know how or why, but it just seems to work out for Will Klein, and ends up going his way more often than not, it really seems. And maybe not always here in NORC competition, but certainly just in general on iRacing. Through the number of leagues these guys all run together, it's a very common group that ends up going from league to league, running throughout the week and helping each other out in Road to Pro, for example. These guys certainly stick together. That is one thing you've got to give NORC on any given day. They stick together. They are a quality group of really good e-race car drivers, if you will. Zoltan Herczeg going to lead us down to the latest green flag of the evening. It's lap 40 coming to 41 of 100. Cody Miller in tow. Bit of a checkup there on the outside line. Tommy Gossett already shuffled down to the bottom, and we are 3 abreast. We were 3 abreast there for a moment for second place.
Yeah, it looks as though Cody Miller did not get up through the gears as well as his competition would have hoped. That checked up Gossett there, who I think for the second time today was one of the more gentleman drivers in the field as far as lifting and offering an opportunity for Miller to get his stride back underneath him before running into the back of the 28. As we're on board now with the 12 of Owens, who's pulling aside down the back straightaway. Owens may have a problem, or he's electing to fall to the tail of the pack. I'm sorry, that's Daniel Falkingham we're on board with. My mistake. He is electing to fall to the rear of the field. Well, it looks like we are getting 3 wide up at the front of the pack yet again, and the race for the lead is on as they come off turn 4.
Still going at it, tooth and nail. Cody Miller going to ease ahead. No, it's shot at the line. Almost contact. Cody hangs on to it. Very impressive stuff out of the entire top 4 or 5 here to keep things together. Some proper drafting at hand with these couple of Monte Carlos up ahead. They are the Aero Coupes, and they are working together quite nicely. Now Zoltan going to pull down to the bottom side, try and take that spot away. No, back in behind David Schutt, but they have taken this field. The Gavelbys here on lap 42, just trying to walk away.
Less than 10 laps shy of halfway in this NORC Classic, and right now, one of the common threads up at the front of the pack has been that of Zoltan Herczek, who I think prefers the top side of the racetrack. There was momentarily willing to go to the bottom, and he's going to do it again here. Up alongside of Schutt for the race lead as they come through the tri-oval, and it's Herczek trying to get that top spot back, but up on the outside, Miller is elected to stay high to perhaps help Schutt, but it's not going to work. Herczek clear to the lead through 1 and 2.
Everybody bobbing and weaving throughout the field here and there, and Zoltan's going to go low. He's going to defend the bottom side. That's going to give Schutt the top, and it seems like the top is great for passing. I'm not so sure on defending. We're out to lunch on that part thus far, as actually Zoltan going to defend on the bottom side, keep that lead position for himself. I think Schutt's going to try and work on a slingshot here. Up out of turn 4, you see a very slow Cole Fralick coming into the pit lane. Unfortunately, after looking very strong in the early going, it's not going to work his way. Tommy Gossett, though, I'm so impressed by Tommy's run this evening. He's working with hand controls this evening, and he's doing a great job of it. He's been very quick to get on the brakes, get on the binders, and check up for whatever happens ahead. Very gentlemanly, like you said a moment ago, Eric. Very, very impressed with Tommy Gossett so far.
Yeah, gentlemanly is probably the best way to describe Tommy Gossett's performance here tonight so far. And you mentioned hand controls. I can understand you doing that in the modern-day Cup car, in the modern-day Daytona International Speedway, but boy, Tommy is working very hard to continue to be at pace and to run as clean as he is right now here tonight with those hand controls. And right now he's up to 4th and proving he has the pace that it takes to climb even further up the running order, while Schutt and Herczek just cannot decide who wants to lead this race. Right now they both drift up the racetrack. Patiently waiting in the wings is Tommy Gossett as well as Cody Miller, but we continue to be side by side for the lead as Herczek almost lost the back end of the race car off too.
Very close racing from these two, still going at it. You see most of the field up top just kind of waiting in the wings, I think, as a plane takes off from the backstretch. But this is just incredible stuff from the 96 and 49. They're running this race right now, and everybody else is just waiting behind. What's going to happen next? Gotta miss that wreck when it happens, because at this rate, I'm not so sure these two survive the next 55 laps going at it like they have been. David Schutt on the outside and Zoltan Herczek on the bottom. How about just the way those cars look coming straight at you there into turn 1? It just looks so cool to see those Monte Carlos coming right at you, especially here out of turn 2 as well. Oh, and those Thunderbirds look nice as well. Schutt is not giving up on the top lane. He will not let this one go to bed, and it looks like he clears Zoltan for the moment, and Miller thought about sticking it to the outside of that 96, then backed out.
I think perhaps the best optic that I love about these cars, Andrew, is the fact that they don't look planted. They are clearly not embedded in the racetrack, and these drivers are having to work for every inch of pavement they're trying to occupy, and they may not be able to hold it for long. Herczek now cleared to the lead. However, Schutt looking outside. Nice of Herczek there to open the door, albeit momentarily on the entrance to turn number 1. But this battle for the lead has allowed some of the other front runners to close on in. Sean Williams up into the mix in 5th. John Berry is there as well in the 6th spot. And Femi Olet, who we have not, Femi Olet, I should say, who we have not talked about much after being involved in a couple of incidents here tonight, still within striking distance there in the 8th spot. As we're on board with Williams, he's got a side-by-side battle at the front windshield with a very loose Gossett off of turn number 4.
Yeah, Tommy's been really loose tonight. I gotta give it to Tommy though. I gotta keep giving this guy props. He's run a great race so far this evening, just trying to make sure he sticks through all 100 laps. And you know what? He's been working his way up in the sim racing world as of late. He's had a rough time going, and unfortunately has to take some breaks every once in a while. But Tommy really does put his nose to the grindstone and get stuff done when he needs to. Runs a lot of races, a lot of leagues. He's very, very active on the iRacing.com sim, and I really do got to give hats out to Tommy Gossett. He always finds a way through whatever he's going through to just keep sim racing. It's really impressive, actually, and the hand controls are an example of that. He's doing a great job in that number 80 Simnut Ford Thunderbird and picking up a lot of partnerships as well as, oh, he's going to have to, oh my gosh, he's got to evade the 28, gets down onto the apron. I at a loss for words there for a moment because he's really trying to keep that car in one piece. Gets a shove from Caressel. No, that is Caressel there behind him. How about Nicholas Caressel just sitting back here? He's got a little bit of damage, but sticking in this race.
How did Caressel get back up there? Last time I looked at the timing and scoring monitor, he was well out of the top 10, and I think even a couple laps down. So what a job for the driver who paced the drafting practice session we had prior to qualifying. And Nicholas Caressel is now in the conversation yet again, and also offering up a moment for Gossett to catch his race car after the sliding save off the corner. And also want to note the fact that after Gossett got so loose, good job by him to transition back up onto the banking in the tri-oval and not lose the car yet again. He's got Femi Olick just behind him here, now looking outside for the 6th spot, while the top two are starting to open up a little bit of breathing room, and that came in by virtue of the assistance of the slide that we saw out of Miller, who was in 3rd position. But even though they've got some room, they're not done racing for the lead, as Schutt had a peek down low off 2, and they'll duck back in the draft.
That might have actually just been breathing the nose of that Monte Carlo. He's got some damage, got to make sure it stays cool. But look at the gap these two have opened up. If they just maintain this for a while, they'll have to go through a fuel cycle. But, oh my, they have really opened up this race for them. I say maybe he was just breathing the nose. No, he's going to go down to the inside. We are going to race for it down to the stripe. This is to take halfway, and it's Schutt at the line. Takes the top spot away for the moment. Back behind, you see this two-wide battle for 3rd on back, and this is Sean Williams down to the bottom side with John Barry in behind. A couple of Fords up top of a couple of Chevrolets as Miller and Olot work the top line, and Tommy Gossett there just waiting for a way to get by.
So they head down the back straightaway. Miller's going to be able to hold on to that 3rd spot for now, but Femi Olot is the car that is starting to move up towards the front of the field. We talked about him running back in 7th a few laps ago, now diving to the inside of Miller. One thing I noticed, Andrew, these cars, it seems like they like to drive literally down the banking. We've seen a lot of drivers on corner entry when they elect to go to the bottom. They don't shoot to the yellow line with the left side tires right away. They enter a little bit high and then kind of drive down the embankment to get a better run to the inside lane. And I'm seeing that also unfold with some of the front runners as they come off the corner. A lot of drivers who are up high, like that of Miller, as they exit the turn, if they're thinking about trying to make a pass, they'll try to apex the exit of turn number 2 or 4 rather late to hopefully give them a better launch down the straightaway, as we now go on board with what looks to be that of Gossett, trying to work the outside of Falkenham, and another throwback-looking entry in car 20 as they were in the tire tracks of Berry momentarily. And just like that, the field is starting to accordion back together again.
Here comes Femi. He's up to this duo up front, bringing forward power back into this conversation for the race win, eclipsing lap 52 on to 53 in the 3-car in this 3-car battle. He goes down to the bottom side. Femi looking for 2nd and a whole lot more. He's got clean racetrack down there. You mentioned these guys are throwing the car into the corner and trying to drive it off the corner straight. It's much like at a short track where you want to drive the car out of the corner as straight as you can, as John Barry with a great save out of turn 2 keeps things going. You want to drive the corner, or drive out of the corner as straight as you possibly can. Minimize how much wheel you have in the car in any one direction when you come out of that banking so the car doesn't get too loose, just like Zoltan. Oh my, what another amazing save. Keeps out of Femi, so Femi can go on into this battle with David Schutt and keep racing. That could have been terrible out of turn number 4 for the 3-car and the 96 alike. That could have been awful as, wow, Femi sideways The tires are starting to fall off. That is the unfortunate downside of throwing the cars into the corner the way they have to. They've got to throw it in, kind of set aside almost like on dirt, and then hold it there, hold a little bit of yaw in the car, then try and drive it on the racetrack like you were saying, drive it out as straight as possible, and minimize wheel in the car on exit.
Yeah, and just like that, 1 lap ago, he was sideways. Less than a lap later, he's back to the lead. That is the product of this car at this track and this NORC series, as we have Herczeg back to the point, shut second, and Femi Olet, who is, I think, counting his blessings after we saw the slide there by Herczeg. I literally had to gasp for air watching back here because I thought for sure he was going to clip the right rear quarter panel with that 3-car lap ago. He was able to save it, and now everybody trying to look for some clear running room as it looks as though we're stacked up pretty much throughout the top 8 down the back straightaway.
Love seeing the field come straight at us down that backstretch now. Fanning out a little bit there for 3rd and 4th off into turn 3 as Sean Williams enters the fray once more. Femi dropping back a little bit. I think he realizes where his tires are at right now and that he can't keep pushing them like that. Now coming to our speed shot here at the Tri-Oval. Mostly single file through the field. You see the cars just pitch sideways and lean on everything they've got in those Goodyear Eagles. Thankfully holding them pretty straight, but man, they are very close. That slip angle is, wow, Cody Miller, another great save. He's in 3rd, but he's got Sean Williams all over the back end, and here comes Gossett down to the bottom.
Gossett, who has been a bit of a rubber band effect. We see him up towards this part of the racetrack, kind of works his way back a little bit after a little bit of a slide or an overstep, and then starts to bounce his way back up towards the running order, and now trying to look for an opportunity to get around Miller for 3rd. Well, the top 2 look to build up some breathing room yet again, and even though it seems that Herczeg and Schutt are remaining a constant up in the top 2 spots, I think we're starting to build up the same type of ideology for Miller, who rides in 3rd. He's pretty much been in that 3rd spot since we went back racing. Had a couple of saves himself there in that 3rd spot, but able to fend off all the challengers up to this point. And even as that car scrapes its way across the bumps on the outside of turns 1 and 2, he's fending off Gossett for the time being and now trying to close back up on the top runners.
Amazing stuff here, just watching these cars battle the bumps. I can never get tired of watching these guys just try and fight the racetrack like they are. It was really cool last season as well, taking these cars to places like Darlington, North Wilkesboro, places that were just horrendously rough and really made you drive the racetrack, and really make you drive the racetrack in any car, let alone these 87 Monte Carlos and Thunderbirds. It's great stuff watching them fight the racetrack like they do. Still nose to tail on the far side of halfway here, Eric. It's been a hell of a show here for the NORC Classic. I don't always use that word particularly twice in the broadcast, but it's deserving. This has been amazing stuff from the entire NORC field. A bit light on entries, as we mentioned earlier on, but oh my, it has been good racing through and through. Zoltan Herczeg still hanging on to that race lead, and I love this view in particular. Offset just a little bit so you can look towards the inside of the racetrack from the right rear side of this race car, and you can see the entire field in behind all the way through the corner. This is a really cool angle to just see the whole field going to work into the corners.
It is an incredible angle to watch from, especially because you don't see these cars naturally yaw out in that fashion anymore nowadays, and it truly does show how much effort is going into getting around a racetrack that has earned a reputation to be, usually in today's version of the Cup Series car, flat out, relatively smooth, and the driver just happens to dictate what line he or she wants to be in. That is not the case here. This is a workout for sure, and if you look at the box score, we had 3 cautions in about the first 30 laps. Some may say, how could that have been entertaining? Every lap has been like this. You can tell that each driver is on edge. 4 cautions total for 10 laps. How about that, though? 22 lead changes in the first 60 laps of this race. And we've got the top 2 trying to break free, and a lot of fighting going on here for 3rd on back. I could only expect the anticipation and the aggressive tendencies of these drivers to pick up as we approach the checkered flag. But you can tell these drivers are having a hard enough time controlling their own race car on this track, let alone having to race their other competitors as well for position.
You mentioned the 22 lean changes. That is insane. As here come Falkingham and Olot. Williams gets the fence up out of the corner. Thankfully keeps that car together, I think. He does keep rolling, keeps it above 186, so keeps that car in one piece for now. Look at the white gloves on the inside of the 28, fighting the car, fighting the track down out of the trial. Well, that was a great look. And actually, I'm glad Cody's running those white gloves on his fire suit. You can watch those white gloves fight. That's something I really like to see in any race car, any racetrack. And when I'm on camera sometimes, that's something I look for, is trying to make sure we can see those gloves, watch the driver fight the race car. It's really, really cool to see, especially here in these 87 cars at Daytona. Let's check into the weather for the first time this afternoon, Eric. 87 degrees Fahrenheit, relatively calm winds, but when these cars are these touchy and this close to spinning out, that feels like a heck of a lot.
Oh, yeah, and it also gives us an idea of how much more difficult these conditions could be. From my perspective, as someone who's never gotten a chance to drive this car on a sim yet, I'm thinking these guys are working hard. And when you look at how the winds are relatively calm and how that track temperature, yes, 87 degrees, the ambient air temperature is only showing 73.5 or so. It could be hotter, it could be more blustery, and these guys are still on the edge of control each and every lap by themselves. I bet they're thankful for these conditions they've got to work with here this evening, and they still are working hard, as that was Falkingham getting up into the top 5, nearly colliding with Miller as they came through 3 and 4 as he edges out in front, but not for long.
This is an epic look at the back end of the 28 car, and that's Cody Miller getting a shot back ahead of Daniel Falkingham. Not even contact there, just the air from Tommy Gossett's nose pushing that 28 back ahead, and maybe even a little bit of a lift possibly to keep the 20 underneath of Daniel Falkingham. Just watching these guys go at it and keep battling like this is a heck of a lot of fun. I actually read the temperatures backwards at first. When I saw 87, I thought that was the air temp. That is only the track temp. It is very, very calm here in Daytona Beach. I am very surprised. Actually, I thought it was warmer with the way these guys were so sideways. No, that's just how difficult these cars are to drive on a daily basis. Very good stuff from the entire field. Still watching these guys go at it. Back up front, if you're just joining us for some reason, well, first of all, you got to go back and watch the whole race to this point at some point in time. But these two especially, and you throw Howie Briss in there earlier on, even though he's 26 laps down out of this race now, those three, the three to talk about all day long, Zoltan Hertzog, David Shutt, and Howie Briss have been the three to beat, especially that 96, who just seems to get runs out of nowhere, and he'll do so again down to the bottom side, uses the inside line to get right back ahead of David Shutt.
And actually surprised to see this because they had built up nearly a 2-second advantage over the third-place driver in Femi Olot. And Olot's got company behind him pretty much from his third-place running position all the way back to 9th in Sean Williams. So this pack of cars, they want those top two to start jockeying for position. They've already closed up 0.2 of a second by them trading that lead just that one lap ago. So they're doing all that they can. They're kind of in cooperative fashion, single file, not in a Congo line draft like what you would see in today's style of stock car racing at Daytona, but it's enough where they're not slowing down each other's pace and momentum for the time being, and they started to notice perhaps a little bit of that gap starting to shrink away towards the front runners as Shutt, at least from the distance it looks like, maybe trying to peek down low for the lead again on Hertzog off 4. He will duck back in line as well, while this group of cars is doing all they can to close up that gap that is now about 1.5 seconds back to third.
We'll take this moment to check in on the entire standings here because I actually asked out in the YouTube chat, who do you have for the win of this race? Well, we're getting some names that unfortunately are no longer with us in this race. So let's check in. Currently, this is not the win just yet for Zoltan. Zoltan out front, you see David Shutt there, Femi Olot, Daniel Falkingham. You see the rest of the top 10. It's when you get back down to 11th on back that it gets unfortunate for some of these guys. Only 10 cars left with us. Elijah Gracia, he had an engine expire. Cole Freilich, I believe he had an engine expire as well. Will Klein was collected in that wreck most recently with Howie Briss and Tyrell Baker. TCB, unfortunately, out of this one. Fan favorite in the 25. 29 laps down and counting. And, of course, Freddie De La Rosa and Aaron Smith back there with him after Aaron's amazing, not for him, but amazing looking wreck out of turn number 2, where he quickly went from a bird to a turtle as he went soaring through the air and then came back to rest on his lid. What's interesting to me is this field has organized and has run down our race leaders. The 3 car of Femi Olot scored as the 18. The Joe Gibbs racing driver here on the iRacing platform has brought this whole field with him.
Yeah, I think the next time things get strung out, Andrew, we just got to do a full field rundown, and before you know it, we'll look up and we'll be back together again. I mean, this is the top 9 cars in this race coming up on about 30 laps to go or so, and now we're trying to see the top 2 get jumbled up for the first time in what seems to be the longest green flag run of this race by far. Femi Olot on the bottom. He's in the 3 car, being scored as the number 18, as Andrew mentioned. That's his typical number on the Monday nights for the iRacing series that he partakes in. Back to a place where he was able to kind of make his bones in the iRacing category of competition. He has now gotten by Shutt for the 2nd spot, but Falkingham is a name that has only been as high up as 4th, nearly clips the left rear quarter panel of Shutt as they come to the tri-oval. Falkingham's going to cut back in line, but he wants more than just that 4th spot, while Olot goes for the lead in 1.
Femi, a past champion, but he's never won in NORC competition at Daytona. And Femi is bringing the heat this afternoon, although he's going to get ganged up on on the top side. Finally, Daniel goes down there with him, but Zoltan and David Shutt left him out to dry for a moment. The 3 car really working the bottom side. Man, I love seeing that car just sit into the corner and try and hold it sideways. It looks, and somebody mentioned this out in the chat, it looks almost like Dale Earnhardt's Lumina, so it's very interesting to see it go side by side with a Cole Trickle Monte Carlo. It's very interesting to see that Ford body used for a Chevy Lumina, but I think it works.
Works for my eyes for sure, and Falkingham there looked as though he thought about maybe going up to the top side and starting to switch his focus from getting around Shutt on the bottom to getting around Olot on the top. Now he's going to fall back in the tire tracks of the 3 car yet again and push him down the back straightaway. Here comes Miller trying to fill the hole up top. We're about double wide potentially. No, Falkingham shuts the door up top, double wide for 2nd spot. Right now, Zoltan Hertzek is loving what he sees out the rear view mirror, but it looks as though Olot may have the pass made off 4. Falkingham's going to come with. Miller is now ducked to the inside, and the new player up that is 2nd in line on the top side of the racetrack is Gossett, who in that 80 car, that Dick Trickle livery that we've been talking about throughout the night, and the front 4 accordion back together, pretty much single file, and just as I say that, they all wash up to the top side of the racetrack with Shutt looking for a way by.
You've really got to use this entire racetrack in these 87 Cup cars. Love seeing them have to fight the racetrack. We've been talking about it all night long. It is just so cool watching them fight like that. Femi Olot down to the bottom side. He still wants to take that lead away. He will clear Zoltan. Working the bottom. Bottoms out a little bit. Keeps it straight, though. How about Daniel Falkingham? Keeps underneath him. Here comes Shutt. I think we've got a pitter in the back, and that is going to be Cody Miller coming down to the pit lane. But we can't leave this action for too long as Zoltan now relegated to 5th place. Here comes Gossett. He's trying to fight. Well, now Zoltan back up into 4th as Tommy lifts into 1. I think that was pretty intelligent. Looking at what's going on here with Daniel Falkingham and Zoltan, so close there in 2. The tires are going away. They've all got a pit here soon, just like Cody Miller did. But pitting alone is a race killer. Meanwhile, Shutt back to the top spot. Wow. I mean, this is just crazy how much they go back and forth like this.
Oh, Olot there, almost into the side of Shutt at the front of the pack. And just as we're watching this battle for the lead here, with Zoltan coming up on the outside, Falkingham's going to fill the hole down low. You can't pack him up much closer than this as we're double wide amongst the top 4. Want to mention, in practice, as we are approaching pit stops, as you see in the distance there, Miller just coming off the pit lane. It was the race leader, current race leader, and Femi Olot, who mentioned how hard it is to get these cars stopped for the situations that may the situation that may unfold for the front runners with the ensuing pit stops, especially if you got drivers up underneath you virtually, as these cars are, top 5 under a blanket in 3.
They're all going to have to pit very soon. Tommy holding himself back there. That way he's got an easy route down to the pit lane. What will these guys do? Caressel's going to pit that time by. Everybody else stays out at the line. It's going to be a drag race. The 3 gets it once more. And we've got, a couple of Chevys going at it now. The other Chevy in this fight, Daniel Falkingham, falls in behind. The 4-time race winner actually tying that. They're the only 2 in NORC competition who have just 4 wins under their belt. Daniel Falkingham and David Schutt both in this battle. And Daniel was nowhere to be found until the last 5 laps or so, Eric. It's really cool to see that Pepsi 20 suddenly in this fight, but where do you go? How do you pass these 3 so good race cars? I mean, they have all just been amazing this evening, particularly the 2 out front, but also Femi bringing that entire field back up to those 2 fighting for the lead.
And we're also getting to that point in the race with about 25 plus to go, where if you get involved in an incident or make a mistake or have a misstep or get caught up in a crash, you're not going to have the amount of time that the rest of these drivers have had up to this point in the race to make that ground up. So it's something to consider when trying to make your moves here with still 25 to go. We're not in the final lap of this race yet, as it looked as though they were racing just as hard as at the beginning of this race, where pretty much every driver in the top 3 has been involved in some form of contact tonight. Falkingham, one of the drivers, has been able to keep his nose clean, and he's trying to keep that trend up all the way up to the finish as he makes a nifty move for 3rd place. And here comes the leader to the pit lane, and it looks as though Owens is going to follow suit.
Zoltan Herzog going to come down along with Spencer Owens in the 12. They come in for their service. So now the top 4, the only cars left on the racetrack to pit. They lap John Barry there in the 74. This is going to be really strung out. This is going to be a classic Daytona finish, fitting then for the NORC Classic, the first running thereof here in 2021. I hope this is a mainstay on the NORC schedule. This has been a wonderful time. We just got to add a few more cars, I'd say. Down to the bottom side goes Daniel Falkingham, fighting for the race lead, I think for the first time all evening. No, he's got 4 laps later. No, that's Femi Ola. Daniel Falkingham, it would be for the first time. He's not going to get that lap led this time by. They're going to gang up on him on the top side, and Schutt even goes back on by to add insult to injury. But Daniel's very, very close. He's a very patient race car driver as well, hailing from the state of Maine. He's, I think, used to waiting on things up there in the Great White North almost. Like Great White North Junior almost. Canada Junior there in the state of Maine.
That's a great point there, Andrew. And they're about to come up on the backside here of our reigning champion, and Zoltan Herzog, who was one of the cars that ducked on the pit lane. He's got a huge gap between himself and Owens, who already made a
David's got to check way up! Thankfully he does. That could have been disastrous for the entire group of front runners. Now they're all going to pit. Femi comes in. David Schutt comes in. Femi really fighting that race car. You can see somebody spun a little while ago coming in. Oh, they all fight to get inside the cones. Falkingham and Gossett following suit. I want to see who exits first out of this bunch. This will set the tone for the rest of this race.
Yeah, so the amount of time in which these drivers spend on the pit lane and the reference point that they start to come out against some of the drivers who have made stops already. Herzog, who is currently scored in 5th, is the car that we are going to judge the performance off of.
He all 3 here are taking tires. I'm sorry, that's very important. They all take tires.
That's a great point there, Andrew. Glad you were able to point that out. And we'll see how the Delta fares, as it looks as though it is going to be Olad, who's the first to roll off the pit lane. He's going to be followed by Gossett and the rest of the pack coming up. Where is the front runner of the most of the laps in this race, our reigning champion, Herzog? Where is he going to blend out in line by the time the field gets to the backstretch? He's got drafting help, though. He's got Berry, who is a lap down, who's able to kind of help him as far as his pace is concerned. And I think this is going to work out in his favor.
He may have cut the pit stop a bit short on fuel. He's going to pass all 4 of them, despite leaving the pit lane solo. He finds the drafting help of John Barry. He's gone by all 4 of them. It's going to be tough for those guys to get organized and catch up to Zoltan Herzog. It's worth mentioning John Barry a lap down, it looks like. Yeah, John Barry's a lap out of this race, so Zoltan really off and away, might be solo here for 22 laps to the conclusion of this one. Femi Ola, you see the gap, unfortunately, for the 18 car. Scored as the 18, visually the number 3. Oh my, that's going to be tough to overcome. You see a 1.5 seconds. Currently, we'll monitor this gap as we check back to, the rest of the top 5, actually, is David Schutt's further back here. He's not so far back of Falkingham. These 2 can get organized and maybe get up there to Tommy Gossett, who sits in 3rd. You see the gap to the leader, 4.2, and, kind of moving around. And the gap ahead to Femi Olot over 3 seconds as well. I mean, I've never seen a pit run, a pit cycle, there we go, get so disorganized like that for just 4 cars. I thought they would have come out on top of one another. No, entirely spread out.
Yeah, and I think right now the saving grace for our leader in Herczeg is not the margin, because it looks as though Femi Olot is catching them quickly. It's got to be that 74 car, John Berry. As you mentioned, he is a lap down. That is not by virtue necessarily of a differing pit strategy, because the leaders have already made their stops. But he had the drafting help from Berry to allow him to get up to pace relatively quickly. And with the separation between the likes of that of Olot, Gossett, and Falkingham, and Schutt, it gave him a little bit of breathing room, but not for long. Berry has now become the meat in the sandwich on the lead lap cars, and Femi Olot has caught the top 2 on the racetrack, and that includes Berry, who's a lap down, and Herczeg, the leader.
So Femi Olot now just in waiting. I think if you're Femi, you've just got to wait as, oh, John with the save. He's still trying to save that race car. Revin, as he's known, hangs on to it, and I'm very surprised that he did not wad that thing up. I mean, he was all but in the wall, just kissed that wall, like Larry Mack or DW might say a few years back, and now it's 2-car tango up front. It's all Femi Olot and Tommy Gossett. Or sorry, I was looking at Tommy Gossett. It's all Zoltan Herczeg and Femi Olot. Tommy Gossett 5 seconds back. The saving grace might be that Daniel Falkingham and David Schutt are now with one another and drafting. This could bring these 3 back into this. It's going to be tough, but it just might work. At the very least, it should bring this battle for third back into fruition.
So now we start looking at the highest probability for the potential of a yellow flag, and that would be cars that are running in close proximity to one another. And the common thread tonight has been a number of occasions where the race for the lead has gone wrong. Here's about the most dense battle for position that we have, and this involves a driver who was running 3rd earlier in this race in Cody Miller. Sean Williams up ahead in the blue car, and we're on board with Spencer Owens, who, remember, he pitted with Herczeg the first time through. So surprised that Owens lost so much ground to Herczeg, considering the fact that they pitted on the same lap, albeit about 10 car lengths apart. But you talk about a tail of the tape here. I mean, Owens is 21 seconds off. The leader is Miller, as a big save. He lit up the back tires, and this is what we were talking about here. We may not be done with the caution flags here tonight just yet, as we're coming up on about 15 laps to go in a couple of laps here, and there are still battles raging throughout the top 10.
It's never over until it's over. Quite simply, we've still got to get through every single one of these laps. Anything can happen, especially with Mel getting very, very loose there in 1 and 2. A good save there from Cody Miller to keep this thing rolling. These guys are working to catch up to Nicholas Caressel, a solo car on his own. We'll have a 4-car fight here soon. That's for 6th through 9th if they do catch one another. Up front, it's a 2-car tango of Zoltan Herczeg and Femi Olot, and Tommy Gossett has just been caught by Daniel Falkingham and David Schutt. Where do these guys go? It looks like they're going to check up, try and get organized, and go. And the front end of that number 80 might be the cleanest out of those 3. It might be smartest to leave Tommy out front. Maybe Daniel's going to decide differently. Falkingham down to the bottom side. It's lap 84 of 100.
And we will check the margin as the now new 3rd place runner in Falkingham is 7.5 seconds behind the front 2 who are in lockstep formation and perhaps trying to play nice to the finish. Love this vantage point. You talk about the throwback elements and perhaps the flashback to the days of Thunder days as we look back to that City Chevrolet that is second in line to David Schutt, who led a number of laps in this race. And we talked also about Tommy Gossett, who's doing an amazing job tonight given the circumstances. These 3 cars have an opportunity perhaps to try to close up. You can see some battle scars on the back end of Schutt's car as he's going to get a little bit of a love tap down the back straightaway as they are all desperately trying to close up on the leaders. Yeah, I wasn't sure if Gossett was necessarily done saving that. It looks as though that's going to be it for him for the time being. Remember, he was, in fact, using hand control, so that very well could have been him struggling to try to gather that car back in. That may have been our chance for the caution. I think one of the reasons why we may not have seen it so quickly is because the next car on the racetrack was about 12 seconds behind him at the time of that spin. Here's your top two, though. As we are a couple laps shy of halfway, we got two car packs that have kind of broken up here, as we are watching the third place and fourth place driver, Falkingham and Schutt, battle for the final spot on the podium.
It looks like I might have been muted there when we were talking about Tommy Gossett spinning, but yeah, he threw that car for a spin, and after the initial incident, which was definitely accidental, I think Tommy was trying to get the benefit of the doubt and try and get a yellow. It doesn't work his way. And unfortunately, he's going to have to, I think, call it a day after that one. He was going to be well out of the battle for the win. Could have still fought for a top 10, but it would have been tough. Oh my, David Schutt has me singing out of turn 4. And that was a great save there from the 49. I think they have concluded just about the same, that it's going to be tough if they can even get up to those front runners. They're just going to start racing it out for third place. And you know what? If you're David Schutt, it just might work. Side by side are Falkingham and Schutt. It's very interesting to me as well. I love stats, and we were able to put some stats together. Again, these are the only two guys in all of NORC who have just 4 wins. We have guys with 5, guys with 3. These are the only two with 4 wins. It's an oddity to me.
Yeah, and it's something which I'm sure that they know amongst each other. They want to try to one-up each other as the season kicks off in 1 week's time. And obviously, you also want the opportunity here at a bit of bragging rights. You want to go out and beat your closest pursuer and closest competitor. Unfortunately for these two, it's happening about 10 seconds off the battle for the lead, but I love it. Look at all the rubber that has accumulated on the front nose of this Chevy as they head to turn number 1, virtually right into your living room. Come Schutt, now looking outside on Falkingham, who has one of the cleaner cars in the field so far tonight. May have a little bit of front end damage there after the multiple incidents we've had tonight, but we've pretty much gone clean and green since we wrapped up our 4th caution prior to the halfway point in this race, and it separated the pack as we had a green flag pit stop. This is the battle for 3rd. Falkingham will slide up and take the racing line away from Schutt off 4, who will cut to the bottom and try to get it back here on the front straightaway.
Want to check in on our race leaders because Femi Olat has suddenly gone up ahead of Zoltan Herzog. Could this be a move by Zoltan to try and put himself on the catbird seat and try and launch himself here at the end of the race up ahead of that 3 car? We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, we talked about this group that was building. Unfortunately, they've lost Cody Miller, but Caressel, Williams, and Owens still together, and these 3 Chevys are all just riding around right now, but they've been transferring spots to one another, mostly Williams and Caressel going at it side by side, and we've seen those names swap positions a couple of times, much like their counterparts up ahead. They are going at it here in a 2-car battle, and I think Spencer's just hanging back.
Yeah, and it's really fun to look at how some of these racers' nights have progressed. I mean, we talk about the driver rounds on the top 5 right now, and Caressel, and again, he was involved in an early incident, multiple laps down at one point, quietly worked his way up into the top 5 spot he holds now over Sean Williams. As we look out the windshield of Owens, just very, very fun to see how some of these drivers have battled back through adversity, as that may be something they could take with them when we get into the points-paying portion of the NORC season in 1 week's time. Even back at the front of the pack at Femi Olat, we talked about how it was a quiet start for that driver in this race. Didn't see him appear to be too aggressive to get to the front. Survived a couple of incidents, finds himself in a lead with less than 10 to go, as there are battles all throughout this racetrack. Battles up at the front of the pack for the lead, for 3rd, and this fight you see here for 5th on back with about 3 cars. But that is your front runners. Femi Olat in car 3 scored as the 18, and the driver in 2nd spot in Zoltan Herzog, trying to get back up to P1, a spot which he's held throughout a good portion of this race.
Up in the front, you see the 3 and the 96. Again, Femi scored as the 18. That's his number in the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series. You can see him on, I think, alternating Tuesday nights thereabouts on iRacing's YouTube channel, fighting for a championship this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he gives those guys a run for his money, a run for their money, rather, in his rookie campaign. Femi is really, really good. He sits 3rd on the list of all-time winners in NORC at 26. This wouldn't add to the points wins, but it would certainly just add to his resume here in the NORC iRacing Series. Femi is just so good, and he's always been in the fight for championships. In fact, looking back to our most recent season, Season 12 with the 87 Cup cars, he may not have been quite up there in the top 3 at the end, but he was always in the conversation. He's always been in the conversation, I feel like. Go back to Season 11 in the Cup cars, he finished 3rd. Go back to Seasons 9 and 10 in trucks and Cup cars respectively, he won both of those. Femi is just so good, even on this big 2.5-mile super speedway with these 87 cars. He is driving away. Zoltan, the reigning champion, the only one who can keep up with him. Granted, obviously, some of it has been due to pit stops, and it's worth mentioning that these two had the shortest pit stops. They only took 2 tires as opposed to 4, and that has been the difference maker. Able to hang on to their race cars on just 2 tires, that puts them ahead of the rest.
And we also have to keep in mind the fact that the runner-up in Zoltan Herczeg was one of the first cars to come to the pit lane. So if he did try to dial back the fuel number to save some of that time on pit road, I hope he's not cutting it too close here as we get to the finish. We'll see if that ends up being an element in how this race pans out as we are in the final few laps here of the NORC Classic at Daytona. And Olot now was able to nurse about a 3-car length advantage for these last few laps. But it looks as though that Herczeg is trying to close up here on the back straightaway, virtually acting as a shadow to that of Olot for the top spot. Again, this is all going on 12 seconds ahead of Falkingham, who holds down 3rd. There is a lap car up ahead who, even in these cars at Daytona, could play a bit of a factor, but it looks as though it's Schutt who wants to end the night on a podium spot after he was one of the many leaders in tonight's contest. He slides his way by in 3 and 4 to try to get up to 3rd.
Looking at how sideways they are, it's not over yet. We just came to take 5 laps to go for the race leaders. These guys coming to get the 5 to go signal as well. And it's going to be a drag race almost even at the line. Up ahead, Zoltan just waiting in the wings. They're going to pass Cody Miller, the slow car here. Femi trying to get a draft off of that 28 car. No, is he going to stay behind? He is. I think that's intentional. I think that's intentionally swapping around and maybe even going to use the 28 as a drafting partner, I think. This could be a work of a couple of teammates. Look at the hands. I love the white gloves that Cody runs. That was a great save. And if you are keen to watch the cockpit of that 28, you can see how he hangs onto that race car 4 to go that time by.
And that's going to allow Zoltan to take the lead away. And we also saw a little bit of backfire there out of the left-hand side of Femi Olot's car. He definitely had to pedal the throttle there to avoid running into the backside of Miller, who goes a lap down in 8th spot. And a 3-car draft will work their way down the back straightaway, getting set for 3 laps to go in this race with Herczeg back into the lead, Olot 2nd, and they're still gapping the tandem that is battling for 3rd, but this is the race for the lead and the win as they come off turn 4, and this time at the stripe, it's going to be Herczeg back to the point.
And keep in mind, there's 3 cars in this fight. Not really. That 3rd car, a lap down, it's Cody Miller. He sits in 8th. John Barry, the next one that could fight with him. Tommy Gossett, he parked it. He's in 10th. So 9 cars still running, 7 still on the lead lap, and it's just in these couple of groups that you have this fighting going on. Zoltan Herczeg hanging on to the race lead. That was 3 to go. Now 2.5. We'll check in on 3rd place. Daniel Falkingham still trying to hang on to that spot over David Schutt. It's a matter of watching these battles. It's going to feel a lot like a Pacific GT3 race here, Eric, where we just got to wait on these battles to come across the line when this one's over. If it stays green to the end, it might not. We could still have anything happen. You see Kressel still over Williams and Williams still over Owens back here. Side by side at the line to take 2 to go. These two still going at it.
On the bottom of the racetrack in the black car, Femi Olot outside in the dark blue machine, the number 96 of your reigning champion and Zoltan Herczeg. Keep in mind, this is a non-points event to knock the rust off. No points on the line for these drivers here tonight. It's simply just to get themselves in race-ready position for next week's season opener for the 13th season of NORC competition. Winning this race could go a long way in how your season starts, and it appears as though it's going to come down to these 2 all-stars at the head of the pack. Herczeg, who's used the outside of the racetrack many times here tonight to perfection, and Olot on the bottom as we come to the stripe. It looks as though we're going to be side by side for the lead. No, Olot to the point with 1 to go.
Zoltan going to be on the hot seat. Can he find a way to work the draft on by Femi Olot? He's got Cody Miller, but does Cody play into this? No, Cody's going to back out. Mel's going to back out of this one. He doesn't want to be a part of the fight, I don't think. So it's all Zoltan on Femi Olot, side by side, down the Daytona super stretch for the final time this evening. Femi Olot now onto the left rear, side by side, into 3 and 4. It's going to be these two. It's going to be a drag race up out of turn 4. Still side by side. Femi on the bottom, Zoltan on the top. Who is going to get it? We're going to come down to the final inches here at Daytona. They door bang the 3 up and over, and it's Zoltan Herzeg with the win in the first annual NORC Classic. The fighting not over, though. Daniel Falkingham exits turn 4. He's going to take the bottom step on the podium. We'll find out who finishes in 5th in a moment. Look at Caressel sideways on the top side. Spencer Owens going to try and dip down to the bottom. He wants 6th. Can the Nintendo 12 do it? We're going to have another drag race, door banging again. Caressel drives them all the way down to the apron, and they all wreck across the line. And we get kind of a blowover out of Sean Williams.
We were waiting all race for that to happen. Williams, even though he ended up in the catch fence, finishes 5th. And how about that? Herzeg with the win by 34 thousandths of a second after Olot was up on 2 wheels nearly as they crossed the start-finish line. What a race and what a way to kick off this NORC season unofficially here with the NORC Classic. These drivers provided, even with 17 entries, 100 laps of thrilling competition with the same car they used to wrap up season 12. What a race.
I did this a little while ago. Let's see if I can do it again. I want to, no, oh, there we go. As soon as I'm going to do it, he escapes from the car. Let's take the instant replay on this one and see if we can manage to do it again. I've got to get back over into iRacing. I want to try and work this out. There's Zoltan Herzeg as he comes by. I thought he was going to do burnouts. We're going to get a look at his burnouts here, but he's just going to park it on the front stretch instead. Maybe forgetting that we're going to be talking to him, checking out his burnouts here in a moment. He's going to... yeah, escape here in a moment. Doesn't do any burnouts here after his win at Daytona, but it's still cool to be able to mess with that and act like we have a drone camera like Fox and NBC. For a moment, we almost had it, and then he decided to park it there. That said, Eric, I can't believe it. I cannot believe that out of 100 laps, having, I don't know, over 50 there at the end, all green flag, it still came down to the final moments. It still came down to every last foot of Daytona's banking and pavement. Somehow Zoltan walks out of here a winner, ending this first race, I guess, of 2021, much like the last race of 2020 on top of the NORC field. We'll be talking to him and the rest of the top 3 very, very soon. Post-race interviews up ahead. Don't go anywhere. It's continuing coverage of the first annual NORC Classic at Daytona International Speedway, and this is PitStop TV.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it is you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. What a show we saw this evening. I don't know why I say in 1 mile. It was definitely 2.5 miles of fun this evening. Per lap, just take 2.5, multiply it by 100, and you've got 250 miles that we had for these guys. It was a wild, wild ride under the Florida sun. And boy, it was baking down in this place. It wasn't too warm, stayed in the 70s, which gave these guys just enough grip to go at it lap after lap. And it all came down to these two right here. Zoltan Herczeg, the reigning champion, and Femi Ola, third on the all-time wins list here in NORC, and new NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. They put on a heck of a show. We're going to get straight into post-race interviews, of course, beginning with our race winner, and it's Zoltan picking up right where you left off, bud. A big win here in the NORC Classic.
Yeah, that was an awesome race. It was fun. I almost short-fielded a little too much, so I had to fall in behind Femi and save some fuel. And then it looked like I had enough fuel, so that's when I started going. And then it was a nice drag race to the checkered line. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, we noticed the difference in pit stops. In fact, you were about 3 seconds shorter in the pit lane than Femi Ola. In fact, you actually had a better in and out time than him, let alone the pit stop. So it really all set you up for a really good chance to catch on to his draft and save that fuel. But let's rewind to the start of the race. It was not so easy going. A lot of stoppages, although not that bad, I'd say, despite the fact you were almost in the midst, and we're in the midst of a couple of those big incidents that even took away some competition like Howie Briss.
Yeah, they took it 3 wide on us going into 1, and I didn't hear anything, so I kind of ran a little bit higher because I seen Shutt was a little bit higher. He did that the couple laps before that. He kind of pushed up the track, so I was trying to give him the room, and then I guess the guy on the bottom just stuck his nose in there and got us wrecked. But I had like a minute and a half worth of damage, but once I got it fixed, the car had its speed again, and I was able to get up to the front again. So I really like these cars. You can kind of beat on them a little bit and still have the speed in it, and it takes a lot of it's just harder to drive, I guess, with how you have to do the steering input and everything like that. So I definitely like this car a lot more than any other one on iRacing.
It's certainly more than clear that you like this car, Zoltan. You got last season's championship, season 12. This season, we're changing up the cars away from these 87 Monte Carlos and Ford Thunderbirds. We're going to the current NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. How do you feel about that switch?
I like it. I'd rather run these cars, of course, but the B car's a little different. I still don't have a handle on the new tire. I'm missing something. You have to drive it really weird just to save tires, or it's very line sensitive, and I'm not too big on it, but it's definitely going to be a nice way to learn it throughout the season, running these races. So it should be interesting.
I think the tires are going to be on everybody's mind gearing up for season 13 of NORC action. Congratulations on this big win. 59 laps led. Who do you have to thank?
I got to thank you guys for broadcasting. I'm looking forward to going back and watching the race. And thanks for everybody watching. And thanks for John Barry putting on this event.
It was a stellar show that you put on all night long. Zoltan, congratulations once more on the win. We'll be talking to you, I'm sure, a whole lot here in Season 13.
Hopefully. Thanks, man.
That's Zoltan Herczeg winning here at Daytona in the first ever NORC Classic in these 1987 Cup cars. We'll hand it on down to Eric Brennan with third place finisher Daniel Falkingham.
Daniel Falkingham, what a drive. I mean, throughout the first half of this race, I have to admit, we noticed that you were up in the top 10, but it seemed like you were one of the few who didn't get caught up in the many multi-car crashes. What were your thoughts there in the first half of this race? You saw how crazy things were. Was it your objective to kind of just keep the car clean and make it to the end, or were you just biding your time and happened to be in the right place, right time when a lot of that madness broke out?
Yeah, I decided to stay in the back for the first half of the race, and plus I didn't turn one single lap in practice or qualifying because I was watching the end of the Xfinity race, but so I kind of decided to let everyone pass, drift to the back, save my tires, because I knew tires would be important with, you know, these things being unrestricted, kind of had to lift going into the corners and whatnot, so it's always a blast driving these cars around the old bumpy Daytona. So I knew tires would be important, and I think we did a pretty good job taking care of the tires and avoiding all the wrecks. Really, the only incident we got in tonight was with me and Nick Kressel checking up for a wreck, and Kressel just lost it while he was on the brakes. Guess he just wheel hopped or whatever, and we weren't able to avoid that. But other than that was really the only major incident we had all night, and we were able to draft with Femi there to get up to the front, and that last pit stop really didn't go our way, but other than that, it was a pretty solid race. Just wish we were there to battle for the win.
I mean, once you got up to the lead draft, you were mixing it up there. I think you were as high as second at one point, was going for the lead just before the pit stops. And then, as you mentioned, you know, you came down with a group of cars. It was the top four at the time, and for some reason, everybody got broken apart coming off the pit lane. Was it a difference in how much fuel you elected to take that kept you in the pit box, or you just kind of lost touch with those cars as they pulled out of the pits and kind of worked their way out ahead of you?
Yeah, so I guess, like, Femi took 2 right side tires on his stop, so did Tommy Gossett. They got split up, and me and Shutt took 4. Because, I mean, I don't drive this car too often, so I don't know, like, how the tires work and whatnot. But when Femi took 2 tires, he was flying. And when me and Shutt were hooked up together with 4, we really went nowhere. So, so I guess 4 tires, I guess I was just so much grip, I was stuck to the racetrack, I guess. So, but whatever Femi did on his pit stop, he took 2 tires. We took the same amount of fuel. We were discussing what we were going to do on our pit stop. I wanted to take 4 because of the tire wear, but I guess he had in the back of his mind that 2 tires were going to be a much better strategy, and it worked. He was up there battling for the win, and we finished probably like half a track behind. So, Femi played the strategy right. If we would have taken 2 tires as well, we probably would have been there fighting for the win. Just me not really planning out the strategy right, but other than that, it was definitely fun to drive through the field and whatnot. Just wish we had a better strategy. We would have been there to get the victory, hopefully.
Now, typically these, you know, preseason non-points events offer a little bit of a confidence boost to some of these competitors before they kick off their NORC season. However, with this being, you know, pretty much the last race for the 87 Cup car for the time being in NORC, next week's 500, of course, with the Cup cars, then we'll kick the season off with the modern-day Xfinity style car. Does this podium finish kind of boost your confidence with what's ahead, or was this just kind of a one-off and a farewell to the 87 Cup car for now?
Well, like you said, it's pretty much an exhibition, not points race and whatnot. So it's just kind of like get the rust off, trying to get reequate, or, you know, try to get back to how these guys race, just seeing how they race and whatnot. Because it's been a while since FTRL ended, and we're just kind of like knocking the rust off and whatnot. Just, you know, it was fun to be able to slide around with these 87 cars again, but for whatever reason, I just suck with this car everywhere else. But I love racing this thing at Daytona, Talladega, so it was definitely a nice little send-off, I guess, even though I really wish we had a bigger field tonight. I was kind of surprised, like, how few drivers raced tonight, so that was a big shock. But I feel like hopefully this gives us momentum to hopefully have a good finish in the 500 next Sunday, I guess it is. So that should be a lot of fun. It'll be my first NORCTONA 500 because I have failed to do it the last 2 years. So hopefully I'm able to race that if nothing, you know, big comes up and whatnot. But other than that, yeah, it was a nice, fun little race tonight. And good reflag run at the end, and yeah, hopefully hopefully have the same luck in the 500, but hopefully we get 2 spots better.
Well, you guys certainly put on a heck of a show. Before we let you go and turn your attention to the Daytona 500 next week, want to give you an opportunity, podium finish, certainly something to be proud of. Who do you have to thank for your solid run here tonight?
Yeah, just got to thank Revin for all he does for all the league and whatnot. I know he's pretty much, he's had a long break ever since the last NORC season ended, and he's going to get trying to get back into the groove of things and whatnot. So thanks to him for all he does. Thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast. Thank you to you guys who are coming on board for this upcoming NORC season, so that's really cool. And yeah, thanks to everyone who watched the race tonight. It was kind of it was definitely exciting for all the fans to watch. There were some dull points during the race, but I think all the fans came what they all came and stayed for. I think they got one heck of a finish. I thought that was a pretty good finish up front. So yeah, thanks to everyone who watches that each and every week.
I'll tell you, we were certainly entertained. You guys put on a heck of a show, especially you coming home with that third-place finish. Daniel Falkingham, congratulations on your third-place run here tonight in the first ever NORC Classic.
Thanks, Eric.
Again, that's Daniel Falkingham, who came home third tonight. And Andrew Cardinale, I believe we've got another driver waiting in the wings to hear how their night looked from their perspective after a top-5 finish.
That we do, and we're actually dipping down to 7th place finishing Nicholas Caressel. And Nick, it was an up-and-down night for you. You stayed pretty quiet through most of the evening, but eventually you got up there and started fighting with those guys, but I think on the wrong end of things once this race finally went green. How did your race go from your standpoint?
Yeah, I was just taking it easy in the back, just riding around, waiting for the wrecks to happen, hoping to pick off a few people there, learning the track a lot, learn how bumps worked. But yeah, that last pit cycle just kind of screwed me up. I didn't realize people were taking 2 tires and less fuel, so I took 4 and full fuel, and it put me way back.
It certainly split the field up, definitely up in the front, but even back at about 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's crazy to think that 5th, 6th, and 7th is the back of the field with so few cars here. How were you managing the draft? How were you trying to fight for spots?
Yeah, I just kind of let everybody by. I kind of was a safety car in the back, just waiting for everybody to wreck. That's the only way I was gaining spots. I was learning some about the draft and how close you can get to people without making them loose in the corner. So I was hoping to race it out later in the race, but never got a chance to.
So you ended up coming home in the number 30 in P7, making the big jump from these 87 cars, though, to we got the Cup cars here in a week for the NORC Daytona 500. Then in 3 weeks' time, we have Season 13 of NORC starting up in the Xfinity cars. How do you feel about those races and, well, I guess the season coming up?
Unfortunately, I like the 87 cars more than any of the cars on iRacing because you actually have to drive them pretty well. But, you know, we race what we race, and we'll give it our best shot. Usually the A cars I'm not too good at, and the draft package kind of hurts me. Try to ride around the back like I normally do, and then no way to make a run up front in those cars. But the B car, we'll have a pretty good shot at it.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, thanks so much for your time. Who do you have to thank this evening? Who do you have to give a shout-out to?
Shout out to Sean Williams. He hung out with me there for the last half of the race. Kind of took care of each other till the last lap coming to the checker there, and yeah, it's just fun racing with him.
It is always fun mixing it up with Sean Williams. He is a class act on and off the racetrack. Thanks so much, Nick, again for your time. Congratulations on 7th place, and hopefully a bit higher there for the NORC Daytona 500, and maybe even the final result in Season 13 in NORC. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
That's Nicholas Caressel wrapping up 7th place, which when you look at where he started, Eric, starting 16th, that's a heck of an improvement there for the number 30, coming from darn near the last spot up into almost the top 5. And I mean, he was in the top 5 coming up to the line, and then, well, all heck broke loose there in that battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th with Sean Williams and Spencer Owens joining Nick. And boy, again, just what an evening. What a way to open up a 2021 NORC campaign and to bring NORC to PitStop TV.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think one of the highlights of the interviews that we had there tonight, not only the success that we had from our winner and reigning champion in Herczeg, but in talking to Falkingham and him saying that he elected to not partake in practice and not partake in qualifying because he was catching the end of the Xfinity race. I mean, these guys are racers at heart. They enjoy what they do here on this platform. The series obviously has a history of success and talent. But we all have that inner race fan in us, and I think that was all for all of our viewers, for us in the broadcast booth, and for the drivers. Every single one that we talked to emphasized their love and affection for this 87 Cup car on this sim, and I think that has all the ingredients we needed for the incredible 100-lap event that we had here tonight. And I think this is a great way to kind of as these guys said, get acclimated once again to their competitors, this platform, prepare for the Daytona 500 next week, and then the eventual start of the 13th season of NORC competition. And I think this is one of the best ways to do it. I hope they bring this back each and every year going forward.
Yeah, we always say they're, breaking off the rust when they come up and get ready for their next season, but realistically, these guys are always racing. They're always keeping themselves fresh, so it's very interesting when we come up to one of these new seasons, and really there's no learning curve. They're just straight back into it because they don't have to break off the rust like the real guys do. They're always racing. They're always staying active out there in the iRacing community, and you could tell that this evening they were ready to go, and they were ready to go at it, especially David Shutt up there battling for the race lead with Zoltan so much. That was incredible stuff to watch. We do, of course, want to go through your race results. Zoltan Herczeg bringing it home in P1 by just, look at that, 0.034. That's only 3.5 hundredths of a second. They're very, very close. They were found the Olot. It was a drag race to the line. Daniel Falkingham comes home in third. We talked to him. Then it's David Shutt fourth, Sean Williams fifth, Spencer Owens up there in sixth place. How about that? Very quiet run from him. Then Nicholas Gressel, who we talked to in seventh place, Cody Miller in eighth, John Barry in ninth, and Tommy Gossen, unfortunately, parks it early, finishes in 10th.
And we get to the rest of the field now, where we have drivers who all had some incidents throughout the race, including that of Cole Freilich, who went out of this race early in one of the multi-car accidents while battling for the lead. Also, Elijah Gracia, also battling for the lead when he had some incidents. Will Klein, who appeared to be biding his time throughout most of this event, got caught up in one of the multi-car crashes early. Howie Briss, the John Deere machine, led a lot of the early laps in this race. He, too, caught out in a crash. Tyrell Baker, TCB, we watched him charge from the back to the front, sometimes laps down, sometimes on the lead lap. Eventually got caught out by a multi-car crash. Same thing happened to Freddie De La Rosa, but he's grinning ear to ear knowing that this year's season is going to be based off the Xfinity car. He took home the Season 7 championship with that, so he'll wipe this clear of his memory and be prepared for the upcoming season. And Aaron Smith, who ended up on his lid on the Daytona International Speedway back straightaway in order to start off his race here tonight, rounded out our 17-car field for this inaugural NORC Classic.
And I just want to thank everybody, well, beginning with John Barry at NORC, but everybody for tuning in this evening, and those of you who are standing behind us. I know it's an interesting switch from the old to the new, if you will. Here for NORC, it's a new destination, a new place to find NORC racing, but hopefully the switch is made rather easily. We've got plenty of ways for you to watch, plenty of ways for you to share with your friends. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter if you're watching on PitStop TV, as well as NORC's Facebook and YouTube channels. I mean, there are literally a half dozen ways for you to watch these races. Definitely share with your friends, share with your family if you're one of the racers out here. Make sure everybody knows about the switch for NORC. I look forward to Season 13 being one of the best yet, and I'm forever grateful to Revan and everybody at NORC for bringing us in here at PitStop TV. It was a great way to get things underway for what will be a very fun 2021 outing here for the NORC iRacing series. Before we go, of course, we want to talk about some of our partners here at PitStop TV. Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. You provide an image you want, and they will custom create a beautiful framed, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. Make sure to use promo code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off of your order today. We cannot forget Race Pace. I mean, ever wish you could have a race engineer on speed dial? Well, now you can. Thanks to Race Pace, a driver development service and setup shop all in one. It's all inclusive, and you can work with Tyler Campbell, a real-world race engineer, to step up your game before your next race. Pick up pace with Race Pace. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. I know Eric always mentions he and his wife possibly exploring these options. It's for everybody. If you want to look good, quite simply, you can check out Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. Ashley Boyer and her team of specialists will get you sorted out up there. They've got locations in Auburn, Lewiston, and Harrison, Maine to get you taken care of, especially going into what is going to be a wild 2021 on and off of the virtual racetrack. And of course, PitStop TV's new parent organization, Whiplash Media, specializes in various sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and more. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence in real racing, offering services like photography, social media management, and public relations. Go to whiplash-media.com for more information. Unfortunately, though, that is going to conclude our evening. And, well, I guess it's unfortunate because we have to put this one behind us, but fortunate because we now get to look forward to not only a great week of racing here on PitStop TV, but the Daytona 500 weekend up ahead. It's going to be a lot of fun. But this does conclude the NORC Classic here on PitStop TV. We thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action. We hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Be sure to join us Monday evening with coverage of the BRP iRacing Series at Weed Sports Speedway and the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series at the Nürburgring. Tuesday brings us Operation E Motorsport action from the Great White North, Montreal, and Wednesday we get the Bluegrass iRacing Series, throwing it back to Darlington Raceway in their cutoff race before their playoffs. Do not forget to tune in as well. On Friday evening, LTEC will take us back up north, not quite as far north as Montreal, but up to Michigan International Speedway. Going to be a lot of fun up there. And then again, this weekend, it's Daytona 500 weekend. Well, I guess in a week's time. We've got duels on Saturday. We've got the race on Sunday. Oh, man, I'm looking forward to it. I hate that I'm not going to be in the driver's seat for this one, Eric, but I'm very much looking forward to getting to cover it for the first time. It's going to be a ton of fun. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/PitStopTV, on Twitter at PitStopTV_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/C/PitStopTV1. For all of PitStop TV, Eric Brennan with me on the mic virtually this evening, Trey Shuttlesworth on our social media coverage. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a great night.
And we're back.